Welcome back to another FPL deadline stream, the first one of the year, and we're heading into Game Week 21. There was such a long break, and this Game Week is going to last forever, it seems, and we just got the news now of Manchester City having a double in Game Week 25, facing Chelsea and Brentford at home. So that Brentford fixture has fallen into Game Week 25, and we have the first double Game Week of this season coming up very soon, and Liverpool versus Luton Town could be another one that will be added to Game Week 25, giving us 4 teams in total having a double Game Week. I'll cover everything you need to know and talk about all the flag players. I've currently got Trent and Bowen in my starting 11. I don't expect Trent to feature at all, but I've got him in the starting 11 just in case. And if not, I've got Pedro. I'll call him Pedro for now. He's going to come in for Trent Alexander-Arnold. And I have a feeling that Bowen could get some minutes and maybe even a start since they play so deep into the week. And he was reported to be out for 2 to 3 weeks. Let's wait and see, of course. But either way, I've also got Cameron Archer ready to come in. I've taken a -4 hit, as discussed in the final team selection video. I bought in Estupinian, Pascal Gross, and Phil Foden, and I sold Matty Cash. Finally, I got rid of that guy. And I also sold 2 players in Salah and Son, who are amongst the best FPL options in the game, but they're unavailable due to AFCON and the Asian Cup. Let's get straight into your questions. Smash the like button, subscribe for new, all that good stuff. And let's get straight into it. Venom says, greetings, Dylan. I'm using the wildcard, so here's my team. Areola, Dubravka, Borro, Arnold, Doughty, Estupinian, Gusto, Foden, Saka, Bernardo, Gross, Palmer, Haaland, Nunez, and Watkins. Anything you would suggest I change? So you're in a difficult predicament with Haaland because he's red flagged, he's ruled out for Game Week 21, but you'd want him for Game Week 22. So I can understand that. I think that's absolutely fine. I'm not a big fan of Nunez, to be quite honest with you. I know he could, step up in the absence of Salah, but I'm not quite there yet. I'd rather cover the Liverpool attack with Diogo Jota instead in the midfield. I look at Bernardo Silva, and that could be a decent pick with some nice returns from time to time. But I just think Bernardo Silva, as an FPL option, you could do better elsewhere. But apart from that, I think your squad is very good. It's similar to what I talked about in the best wildcard team video, but you've got some of your own picks in there, and I think they're really good. I would just change Bernardo Silva and Darwin Nunez, and I think that's the only 2 changes that you need to make there, Venom. And I remember talking about your team in the Rating Your Teams video, and I discussed some possibilities with you in terms of taking a -4 or -8, but you have played the wild card already, and you have built upon some of the suggestions that we're talking about, so that's great to hear. In my opinion, though, I would change Nunez and Bernardo Silva. Bringing Nunez to jinx Liverpool's winning streak, fair enough. If that's the only purpose of it, then fair. And you can always just have him as a short-term punt. But I'd rather go for Tony if you wanted to go for a third forward right now, or Solanke. But yeah, Nunez, if you really want to jinx him, fair enough. But I think I'd rather go for Diogo Jota in the midfield. And you can also get some points in the process. Doku or Foden? It's Foden for me all day long. He's got the form. He's playing every single game. Whilst with Doku, the minutes and the starts are nowhere near as secure. Now, Grealish is ill, so that could open the way for Doku in Game Week 21, but not necessarily in Game Week 22 or in the upcoming game weeks, including double Game Week 25. So Foden for me is the easy answer. Ray says, switching Salah and Son to Saka and Foden, KDB, Bruno. I'd go for Foden all day long. I think it's no contest right now. Now, Guardiola talked about it today. He said that De Bruyne is ready to start, but just a week ago, De Bruyne said he doesn't expect to start many games, and he probably won't start against Newcastle, and I can understand that completely, and that's actually what I think is going to happen anyway. So I would go for Foden and Saka and keep it very simple. Aidan puts his team as well, with 2.3 million in the bank and 2 free transfers. Yeah, Salah and Son, you've already put them in caps for a reason. I would sell both of them and maybe keep Trent Alexander-Arnold. I would probably do Salah to Foden, and I would consider Son probably to Gross. That's what I would be looking to do, and that gives you the funds to do Archer to Haaland in Game Week 22 if necessary. Welcome, Poke Me. Start Zinchenko and Mabama with Cash first on the bench, or move Cash to Estupinian for a -4, then start and bench one of Zinchenko or Mabama. I'd probably take the -4 and go for Estupinian and bench Mabama. And I think Zinchenko will be available. He'll definitely be in the squad in Game Week 21. It's just a matter of will he start or not. And on paper, Arsenal have the best chance of a clean sheet in Game Week 21. Let's see how that pans out. But I'd probably take the -4 here and go for Estupinian. Welcome, Callum Jr. Good to see you. And it's good to see many familiar faces in the comments already. We'll try to get through everything, of course, but just try to be patient. There is a lot to get through. E.G. Ryan says, what to do? Trent, Salah and Bowen out for Estupinian, Jota and Gross or Foden? I wouldn't necessarily sell Bowen and Trent. As you can see, they're both in my squad still, and I'm quite happy to bench them this week. But Yeah, I think I can understand what you're doing there, and they're all good transfers in. I'm just not quite keen on selling Trent and Bowen at the same time. I think Salah's the priority to sell, and then maybe you offload one of Bowen or Trent, but not both of them, in my opinion. Aviad says I have 5 defenders: Pau, Porro, Estupinian, Sinchenko, Doughty. Choose 3. Um, I'd probably go for the last 3. So Sinchenko, Doughty, and Estupinian. I would probably have Porro first on the bench with Pau Torres second. Now, Pau Torres is clear to play. That was by Unai Emery just several hours ago, but I don't expect Aston Villa to keep a clean sheet away at Goodison Park. Start Archer or Anderson? I would go for Archer. And thank you, Singh, for moderating the chat. Jota captain. I think he's a good punt for the next couple of weeks, but I don't think I'd captain him. The minutes are far too big of a risk, and I think Bournemouth will give a good account of themselves and make things difficult for Liverpool, especially a Liverpool side without Trent or Salah, 2 of their best players. So I think they could struggle a little bit more than we would expect. Now, that doesn't mean to say Jota's a bad option, but I wouldn't captain him in Gameweek 21. Remzinho says, is it fine if I have Mabama starting, or should I take a -8 to remove Bowen? It's fine. It's not ideal, but I might find myself in a similar predicament with Archer. So it's not the end of the world. I'd probably just go ahead with it and keep Bowen because he should be available in Gameweek 22. Rinus says, hi Dylan, Palmer or Solanke captain? Oh yeah, now last week I was talking about Solanke being my preference over Palmer, and Solanke got 2 points and Palmer got 18. So I'd probably go for Palmer this week based on the fixture. But yeah, I think Solanke will probably do well against Liverpool. That's my honest opinion. If Bournemouth score, Solanke's very likely to be involved. And like I said just a minute ago, I think it'll be quite a close game. I would expect Liverpool to win still, but it might be a bit uncomfortable for them. So yeah, I can understand your thinking, but it would be Palmer still, in my opinion. Welcome, Ray. Afternoon to London W42. Will Richarlison start? Almost certainly. I'd be very surprised if he didn't. Heung-min Son is obviously unavailable, and Werner can play on the left-hand side whilst Richarlison remains down the middle. So, yeah, for the meantime, Richarlison will start. The issues will start to come if, let's say, for example, Werner plays very well in the next couple of weeks and Heung-min Son is back. That's where Richarlison could be benched. But in the next couple of weeks, Richarlison should start most, if not all, games, and I wouldn't have any concerns about Game Week 21. Welcome, Pedro. Best defender says Olsen. The best defender to buy right now is probably Estupinian. Brighton are top of the fixture difficulty rating up until Game Week 29, and Estupinian has a lot of attacking potential. Thomas says who to bench, Gross, Richarlison or Foden? Probably Richarlison. That would be the one I'd bench. Why Gross over Richarlison? It's an interesting one. I'm going to show you a stats comparison later in this stream. And look, with Richarlison, he was in my initial thinking. He was discussed in the initial team selection video, but the more I think about it, there's a few factors that will play a part in a couple of weeks' time, and one of them is Richarlison is very likely to blank in Game Week 26, so that's also going to be an issue there. And with Pascal Gross, the next blank he'd probably have is in Game Week 29, which is very likely to happen based on the FA Cup quarterfinals. But with Gross, what you get is kind of a 90-minute man nailed on. You know, you're not going to have any doubts about him starting or not. There might be the odd benching here and there, 1 out of the next 10. But with Richarlison, once Son is back around Game Week 25, 26, that's where you could see Richarlison drop into the bench, a potential blank in Game Week 26. And also, in terms of the consistency, the reliability, the bonus points potential, that's all in favour of Pascal Gross. Now, that's not to say Richarlison's a bad option. He's got 12 big chances and 6 of them have come in the last 6 game weeks, but I'd still prefer Gross. I think he's more of an all-rounder, and Brighton have better fixtures for the next 6 to 10 game weeks compared to Tottenham. Would you sell Lascelles to Stupinian or Son to Gross free transfer? Says Pedro. That is a good question. I would still rather go for Son to Gross, but Lascelles to Stupinian looks pretty decent, I'm not going to lie to you. And if you can afford to keep Son, whilst also affording Haaland in Game Week 22 and keeping maybe Trent or buying back Salah in a few weeks' time, if you can do that with Son in your team, then instead I would opt for Lascelles to Stupinian. But I think for most people, you have to sell the likes of Son to afford Haaland and then get Salah back in a couple of weeks' time. And as a result, based on that assumption, I would go for Son to Gross as my transfer. In Cuckoo to Tony or other forwards, or saving Cuckoo for potential Haaland transfer in Game Week 22? Yeah, I would save him for Haaland in Game Week 22. If you were to make the transfer, I think you're spot on there to go for Ivan Toney, but I would rather hold that forward slot for Erling Haaland next week. Joao Garrotes says, hi Dylan, thoughts on Toney? Double Game Week confirmed and good fixtures. I'm not sure about good fixtures in general because even the double they have is quite tough on paper. Ivan Toney is fixture proof, but the biggest concern with him is he's been inactive, for such a long time. He scored a hat-trick against the under-23s of Southampton, but that's a different kettle of fish, a different level of competition. So yeah, with Toney, apart from Solanke, Watkins and Haaland, he would be next up in my forward list. But because of the lack of fitness, a lot of unknowns there with Toney, Brentford are really struggling and the fixtures aren't necessarily the best. I would still rather go for Haaland, Solanke and Watkins at this moment in time. Sudindra says, hey Dylan, for a -4, would you sell Son and Bowen, Salah to Tua, Foden, Gross, Jota, Garnacho, or Son and Trent to one of the mids above and Estupinian? I think all moves are good, but I'd rather keep Bowen. Out of the 4 options you're talking about to sell, I'd keep Bowen. So it would be Son and Salah for me out for 2 midfielders, and I would go for Foden and Pascal Gross. Hold or sell Zinchenko? I'd probably hold him at this moment in time. Now, the fixtures aren't great for Arsenal over the next 5, but Crystal Palace at home is decent on paper for a clean sheet, and I would expect them to start. Hi Dylan, why is Saka captain better than Palmer? I discussed this in the final team selection video, and there are pros and cons behind both players. Palmer is in better overall form than Saka, but it's also Fulham at home. It's the West London derby. Fulham have been quite competitive recently, since probably November, with the odd exception here and there. And they've beaten Arsenal, they've given Liverpool scares on multiple occasions. Now, with Saka, he did score twice and get an assist against Crystal Palace in his last home meeting last season. And I also expect Arsenal to respond. It's been a really poor run they've been on. 1 victory in the last 7 games. And with a 2-week break in Dubai, I think it's a great time to reset, refresh, and for Arsenal to get back to their best. And Saka, probably more than any player in the league right now, desperately needs that break. So I think Saka, look, it's a lot of unknowns, a lot of ifs and buts and maybes, and it's not necessarily Saka's clearly the better option than Palmer as the captaincy, but I would back Arsenal to beat Palace and to also respond very well. Whilst with Chelsea, I still think they're very inconsistent, and Palmer just got his big return in Gameweek 20, missed a couple of sitters against Middlesbrough, playing as the false 9. But look, Palmer for me is probably 2nd or 3rd in the top captaincy options. I'm currently opting for Saka. Maybe it's more in hope than actual fact, but I still think the underlying numbers are quite good for Saka. Play Charlie Taylor or Porro? I'd play Charlie Taylor, but it's worth mentioning he hasn't been spotted in any training session in none of the pictures since Wednesday, and that is a huge concern. And Vincent Kompany didn't help FPL managers because he gave nothing away in regards to Charlie Taylor. Is Jota a good option? Yes, he is, but the minutes will still be a concern, even with Salah unavailable due to AFCON. Would you sell Lascelles to Stupinian or Son to Gross? I've covered that. Like I said, I'd rather do Son to Gross, but it all depends on the circumstances. Is Bowen a good option given Paqueta and Kudus are out? It's a good question. I have talked about this in the last couple of weeks. I still think he is. Now, with Paqueta out for potentially 1 or 2 months, that is a huge blow for West Ham, and West Ham will struggle to score goals, I think. But Bowen will still be the talisman, get the bulk of the chances, and I still think he has the quality to do quite well on a consistent basis. So is he a good option still? Yes. Is he as good as he was with Kudus and Paqueta behind him? No, he's not, but he's still one of the best options in the midfield, while Salah and Son are unavailable. Esteban dice, hola Dylan, una pregunta, si no uso mi wildcard en la primera parte de la temporada, ¿lo puedo usar ahora o ya lo perdí? Muchas gracias. Sí, desafortunadamente ya lo perdiste y no lo puedes usar. Si usas el wildcard ahora, sería el segundo de la temporada y en muchos casos no recomiendo hacer eso. Prefiero tenerlo más, digamos, en la jornada 30, por ejemplo. No me gustaría usarlo ahora, aunque tengas, no sé, 6, 7, 8 jugadores que están en duda o que no son buenas opciones en la jornada 21. Why Gross over Richarlison? I've covered this just now. So just to kind of recap, because I don't want to kind of go through the same questions too much, but yeah, no worries, Carlota. So with Gross, I think he's just more of a nailed-on option. Even when, you know, for example, when Son comes back, that's where Richarlison could be a bit of a doubt to start some games. I also think Gross is better for bonus points. If he gets just 1 attack in return, he's very likely to get in amongst the bonus points. Great fixtures as well over the next 6, and Brighton won't blank in Gameweek 26, whilst Richarlison is very likely to if Chelsea reach the Carabao Cup final. So because of those reasons, I have opted for Pascal Gross. He's got better fixtures. I also think he's more consistent, a very high ceiling, by the way, 3 double-digit returns for the campaign and a bonus points magnet. And with Richarlison, there's a few question marks around Gameweek 25 and 26. Flecken or Leno? That is a difficult one. I'd probably go for Flecken this week. Play Jesus. Yeah, he's actually in training in Dubai, and things are looking more positive for Arsenal. And they've always been quite hopeful that the injury isn't too serious. He only missed the Liverpool game in the FA Cup, and he should be available for Gameweek 21. Alvarez better captain than Saka? I don't think so. If there was any Man City player I'd captain this week, it'd be Foden. I don't think Alvarez is close, on paper at least, to the likes of Palmer and Saka for the captaincy. Made the mistake of early transfers, but when you have seen Bowen out, of all players injured, says Bridgerton, yeah, it's unlucky, but you know, with such a long break between Gameweek 20 and 21, it's always a risk. No matter who you're talking about, it could be, you know, Salah himself, and of course he's off to African Cup of Nations anyway. Bowen, who's never injured really, but these things happen, and it is a similar issue, I think, in the knee that he had earlier in the season when he had that fluid just after the international break. So it could be a reoccurrence of that same injury. It's a shame, it's unfortunate, but with such a long break, I think it's just worth noting for the future. Don't make early transfers if possible. Bojan says, hey Dylan, 4 flag players, Salah, Trent, Son, Hwang, with 1 free transfer. Thoughts? Well, with Hwang, he's the most expendable of the lot, but you also have to take into account price, and could you afford Erling Haaland by keeping the likes of Salah, Trent and Son? And if the answer is no, then I would prioritize selling one of them instead. And I think Salah is probably the best one to sell because he's so expensive. He's expected to be unavailable for at least 3 game weeks, potentially 4. And of course, Liverpool could blank in Game Week 26, and that could play a part into a philosophy or chip strategy of playing the free hit in Game Week 25 if Liverpool double there and blank in Game Week 26. But yeah, I think the priority to sell there would be Salah. Salah, Son, Trent replacements just arrived. Salah Son replacements, I mean, apart from the obvious Saka and Palmer, I'd be looking at Foden and Pascal Gross as the next ones. And in terms of Trent, Estupiñán is the standout defender to buy right now. Start Taylor or Kyle Walker. I go for Taylor, but as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, he hasn't been pictured in training and company gave nothing away. I'd start him just in case, but I'm not expecting much on that front. Do you reckon Pedro is more nailed now with his recent form, better fixtures than most strikers too? Joao Pedro, yes. I think he is definitely one of the more enticing options. I'd put him behind Tony because of what Tony did last season. But yeah, Joao Pedro looks really intriguing. And if I were to wildcard now, or maybe target the fixtures in the forward position, Joao Pedro would be right up there. So I don't mind that at all. The only issue is minutes. I still think we'll get the odd benching, especially with Ferguson and others knocking on the door. But I have to say it's a great shout at this moment in time. And this is the best time to buy Joao Pedro compared to at any point this season. In your opinion, KDB will start? No, and De Bruyne said that himself. Alvarez or Darwin? Whilst De Bruyne and Haaland are unavailable or not fully fit, I would say Alvarez is better. Yeah, Joao Pedro, I literally just mentioned now. I said he's a good option. I'm going to try not to repeat too many questions. When you are using the wildcards later in the season, I said this in Spanish around 5-10 minutes ago. Ideally, you'd be looking to use it later in the season as part of a chip strategy to use in conjunction with other chips, maybe around Game Week 30. But with the wild card, I'm looking to save it at this moment in time. Hey Dylan, captain Palmer or Odegaard? I'd probably go for Palmer. With Martin Odegaard, he's a bonus points magnet when he does get an attack and return, but the attack and returns have been very infrequent this season. Now, with Saka, it's a bit different because Saka still has good underlying numbers and he's been quite consistent generally for this campaign. I can't say the same for Odegaard. So the way I'd rank it would be Saka first, Palmer second, and then you're looking at the likes of Foden in third, or Ivan Toney potentially. Start 3 out of Gabriel, Gusto, Borro, and Konsa. Well, the only one I'd bench there to keep it simple would be probably Konsa. Now, I think Aston Villa have a slightly better chance of a clean sheet than Tottenham Hotspur, but I don't think they will keep a clean sheet. And then you're looking at attacking potential, and Borro has it in abundance. So yeah, I'd start Gabriel, Gusto, and Borro. Tob22 says Taylor, Hwang, and Salah to Estupiñán, Palmer, and Foden for a -4. Absolutely spot on. I think that's great. I don't think Taylor will play based on the lack of, training pictures. He wasn't spotted in any single session this week. And yeah, I think Estupiñán is the best defender to buy. So I'm on board with that. Palmer and Foden, great transfers if you don't have them already. So that's absolutely fine. Yeah, Douglas Luiz is also a good option as an enabler. Besides, the options I've been talking about all week. So Saka, Palmer, Foden, Gross, Richarlison, Jota. Yeah, Douglas Luiz would definitely be in the thinking and in the top 10 midfielders easily. And he's a bonus points machine. Is Bowen definitely out? I wouldn't say he's 100% ruled out for Game Week 21, but if you're asking me, I don't think he'll play. I've got him in the starting 11 just in case, and I've got the likes of Pedro Porro and Archer to come off the bench if needed, but Bowen should be back by Game Week 22, that's for sure. Foden or Gross, I'd go for Foden, especially with the double Game Week now. If you aren't aware, for anyone tuning in quite recently, Manchester City have a double. That is confirmed officially. So they'll be playing Chelsea and Brentford at home. 2 home fixtures in Game Week 25, and that is already locked in. We could have another double in Game Week 25, and that will be Liverpool versus Luton, which would give Liverpool a double of Brentford away and Luton Town at home. LL Darrick 1989 says, "Hi Dylan, Salah and Son to Jota, Gross, KDB, Bowen, Foden, Neto." Well, with Bowen, there's no real reason to buy him now. He's 50% chance of playing. I don't think he'll start personally in Game Week 21. If it wasn't for that, yeah, Bowen would easily be top of that list. But considering the injuries right now, yeah, from those midfielders you list, Jota and Gross are my favourites. Gil Alcobi says, "I have Bowen, Haaland, and Hwang Hee-chan, Salah, maybe Salah to Foden." Yeah, with a free hit, I think there are better times to use it, including Game Week 25. Also later in the season, I think there are better opportunities. For example, Game Week 34 or 37. So, yeah, with your situation, I'd keep Bowen. Haaland is reluctantly a keep as well. I would sell Salah, and going to Foden is absolutely fine. And even with just 10 players, I think you're in a good predicament there. So, yeah, Salah to Foden makes sense. You could also consider selling Hwang Hee-chan, and I think that would be a good transfer for you. Thoughts on Rashford? I'm not there yet. Great fixtures for Man United coming up very soon, but yeah, Rashford has been so inconsistent this season, and Man United leave a lot to be desired. Take a -4 to let out Salah, Saka, and Trent. Yeah, now what I've done is take a -4 hit, but keep Trent in my team. I sold cash instead, but I'm not completely against that. You might want Trent and Salah back very soon, especially if they reach the Carabao Cup final and blank in Game Week 26 and have the double in Game Week 25. But there's a few things to weigh up, and also the chip strategies. What are you going to go for? But yeah, I think a -4 is absolutely justified. If it was me personally, I would sell Salah and Son and keep Trent. I expect Trent to be available in Game Week 22. Hi Dylan, Foden or Richarlison or Gross? I'd go for Foden. The way I'd rank it is Foden first, Gross second, and Richarlison third, keeping Salah most probably. That's fair enough. I think for those of you who can afford Haaland in Game Week 22 and you can keep Salah, you're in a good predicament there. But it's more difficult for those with Trent like myself, and you could say, well, you could have sold him this week, but I expect him to be back in Game Week 22, while Salah will be available in Game Week 24 or 25. So there's a lot to weigh up, of course. It's not a simple one. We've got a bit more clarity now with the Man City double in Game Week 25, but there's still a lot to be determined. Do not make early transfers or Game Week 22, and that's the biggest advice you can take from this video. Don't make early transfers. It could really backfire like it did for those that bought Bowen this week. How's it, Dylan? How's it, everyone? All good, Dave? What about you? Always a pleasure. And thank you to Tiggy Taylor for becoming a captain. Massively appreciated, mate. And also big shout out to all the channel members and patrons. I'm going to do that right now, actually, before going back to your questions. Be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new if you haven't already. It really helps out the channel, and it goes a long way to boosting us in the algorithm. So let's actually give a shout out to all channel members. So big up to Tiggy Taylor, who just became a captain now. Also to Mauro Rodriguez, who re-signed up a few days ago. Ventislav, Dave, Venom, Let's Talk Vinyl, Richard Milichip, Dao, Twisted Parky 06, Thomas Tio, Stephen, Callum Jr., Natalie S, Line Peterson, Jay Han, Matt Rooney, Wei Seng, Mr. V, Elder, I don't want to get this wrong, Halchevich, hopefully I haven't butchered that, let me know, mate. Julio Peña, Diego Zamora, Amandavar, Jazabi, Ananda, Unruly DMV, Farhad, Pablo Cordero, Lavigny, Joao Cabral, Simon, Ulises, Abhishek, Kat, Bestie, Nothama, Birkan, Sergi, That Air, FPL Eric, Ripstars United, George Popescu, Alex Leadham, Matt Steen, Gabriel Fernandez, and John Granquist. A massive shout out to all the channel members and also patrons, including Alex Orloff, Federico Simos, Andres Suarez, Luis Alexander, Lovro Zuvic, Rodrigo Urias, and Federico Caliso. A massive shout out to every single patron and channel member. All your efforts are massively appreciated. So thank you, Tiggy, and the rest for signing up and helping the channel to grow even further. Let's get back to your questions. Buy Stupinian or sell Son and buy Richarlison? Depends who you sell to get a Stupinian. So if for example, it's selling Lascelles and buying a Stupinian, that looks like the better transfer on paper, but you need to also weigh up, can you afford Haaland in Game Week 22 whilst keeping Son, and also think about potentially buying back Salah in Game Week 25 if Liverpool double in that double game week. So there's a lot to consider, but yeah, Stupinian would be my preference over Richarlison on paper. Is it okay to roll the transfer and wait for the next game week when we have more information on stuff? Yeah, absolutely, Elliot, absolutely. Even if it means you're down to 10 men, that is a great asset to have. 2 free transfers in Game Week 22 could be vital. And not only that, you have a lot of information to then just have a clear plan, and you can just immediately book in transfers for Game Week 23 and 24 as well, and also for Game Week 25. FPL Boo says, what to do with Jesus starting, sell Salah or Son, or bench, sell Salah and Son, 2 free transfers. Well, my personal preference is to sell Salah and Son, but it's not the same case for everybody. For some people who can afford Haaland in Game Week 22 whilst keeping Salah, I'd recommend that if possible, but it's not going to be the case for a lot of people. Now, with Jesus, I would expect him to start against Crystal Palace, but he's just not a good FPL option in general this season. He's very inconsistent. He's a better option in UCL Fantasy, not necessarily in FPL. So, yeah, if you can do Jesus to Haaland in Game Week 22, then I would do it, and that would probably mean selling Salah or Son, and I'd also go ahead with that as well. -12 or wildcard because 5 players are out. I had 4 players out, for example, but 2 free transfers, which helped me. My recommendation would be to just -12. I usually say, look, if you get to that stage, -12 or above, I'd wildcard, but I think at -12, I'd just about justify it and save the wildcard for later in the season. Remember, in Game Week 22, we'll have a lot more information based on the Carabao Cup finalists, and that will play a part in who blanks in Game Week 26, and that could also lead to the Liverpool double in Game Week 25, and there's a lot more to weigh up as well, including the FA Cup. We'll get a bit more of a good understanding of which teams will blank in Game Week 29. So as a result, I think it's best to wildcard later in the season. Gabriel Saliba to Stupinian. I'd rather sell Gabriel if possible, but it's worth mentioning Saliba is 5.6 million, whilst Gabriel is 5 million. Now, it depends when you bought these 2 players respectively, but yeah, my preference would be to keep Saliba and sell Gabriel. Hi, Dylan got 6 flags. Yeah, it's not ideal. I also had 4 myself, and some people have 5+. I can understand that, but yeah, even then, I would still consider taking a -8 or a -12 if needed and save the wildcard for later in the season. Mianji Gaming says, will Richarlison start? Yes, I think he will. And your thoughts on captaining him if you want to do something out of the box? Now, I don't want to discourage people from captaining someone outside the box. I haven't done that enough myself. I did it last week and I got, absolutely punished there by Salah. But yeah, I think that's absolutely fine to go for something different. The thing is, though, Richarlison away to Man United, yes, it could be a high-scoring game, but I also don't have that much confidence in Richarlison based on his history as an FPL asset, particularly at Tottenham. So I'm not quite there yet with the level of trust. If you really back him to do well, then go for it. But my personal recommendation would be no. If you want to go a bit different for the captaincy, maybe I'd consider Jota, maybe in a Stupinian, for example, something very out of the box there. But with Richarlison, I don't really think it'll be the game for him. Raf77 says, hi Dylan, I have 2 free transfers with 5 players out, including Trent, and I have Evan Ferguson and Isak up top. What would you do? Isak still remains a good option. Not the best. I think Tony will be much more appealing, not to mention Joao Pedro, and then the obvious 3 of Solanke, Haaland, and Watkins. But yeah, I think with Ferguson, he is a sell. He might get the odd start here and there, and he's a very big talent. He's got a lot of potential, but I don't think it's his season for FPL. So I would sell Ferguson if possible, and I would go to Joao Pedro as a like-for-like, but ideally, Solanke, Watkins, and Ivan Toney is what I'd look at first. Do you think one of Bowen or Taylor will get any minutes? It's possible. It certainly is. I think with Bowen, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he started, but if you're asking me, I don't expect either of them to start. I think Taylor will be out completely, and Bowen won't start. That's my prediction. I might be completely wrong. I don't know all the information. It's just a guess. Play Dubravka or Turner? I'd play Turner. Maybe been asked before, but Palmer or Bruno? We haven't. It's an interesting question. I'd go for Palmer. Bruno historically is a great FPL asset, but for the last year or 2, he hasn't been to that same level, and Palmer has been extremely consistent this season. Should I transfer Bowen out for Jota? I wouldn't personally, but it all depends on your team situation. Who would you have coming in for Bowen if he misses out? If it's the likes of Arch or Lascelles, it's not ideal. But I would rather have Bowen over the next 5 and also beyond compared to Jota. Kaya and Brandon, another user that I've I can't even speak English, that I've rated the teams of in the rating your teams video. He says my back three is Saliba, Gabriel, and Bodro. Should I take a -4 hit for Estupinian or wait until next game week? Wait until next game week. Esteban says, Dylan, ¿cambiarías a Udogie o a Trippier por Estupinian o Walker? ¿O sería mejor cambiar a Pickford por Ariola? Muchas gracias. Es difícil, pero en mi opinión sería mejor sacar a Udogie y poner a Estupinian. Porque Estupinian tiene buenos partidos hasta la jornada 29, por ejemplo. Y también con Udogie puede ser que no juegue en la jornada 26 si Chelsea llega a la final del Carabao Cup. Así que para mí, el mejor transferencia sería Udogie a Estupinian. In Cuckoo and Taylor news, Taylor, there's nothing. There's literally nothing, as I mentioned a few times in the stream. Company gave nothing away in regards to his injury doubts. With Nkuku, I think he's out for a few weeks, if I'm not mistaken. I'll double check that for you, but I believe he's unavailable for Game Week 21. Yeah, I'm keeping Bowen. I've made a -4 hit already, and I've decided to keep Trent and Bowen. Akanji or Cash to start? I don't think Cash will start personally, and as a result, you probably just go for Akanji, but really, when I look at it, I think both players could get 1 to 2 points anyway. I'd probably go for Akanji. Trippier to Estupinian, yeah, absolutely fine. I think that's a good transfer. Who do I put, Saka or Jota on a wild card? I'd still go for Saka. I might be very biased, you could say, but I genuinely think, taking bias aside, I think Saka is the better FPL option. Choose one between Gross, Jota, Garnacho, Estupinian. Need to buy one of them for a -8 because I've got Bowen and Taylor starting. Well, based on your team situation, and it's very important to give context as you've done, I'd rather sell Taylor to Estupinian and keep Bowen. So if you're asking me there, Sudindra, I would buy Estupinian. Assuming we won't be getting any team news before the deadline, probably not, because we've got one game today, Burnley versus Luton. And yeah, most of the teams that we normally get leaks from, so Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, they play later in the weekend or into next week. So yeah, I don't think so, but keep your eyes peeled and let me know, and I'll try verify it. Always be careful, because a lot of accounts do chase clout and they give a lot of, or they spread a lot of misinformation. Gross or Pedro? Pedro is a good option, but I would rather go for Gross. Thoughts on Garnacho versus Kluivert versus Gordon? Gordon's still my preference, but I think Garnacho could become a decent option under 5 million and probably the best Man United asset, especially in the attacking area. So the way I'd rank it is Gordon first, Garnacho second, and Kluivert third. Sahil says sell 2 free transfers or 3 for a -4. Trent, Salah, Hwang Hee-chan, Lamptey, Zinchenko. I'd probably sell 3 for a -4 here, and my preference would be to sell Salah, Hwang Hee-chan, and Lamptey. Zinchenko's going to play, I believe so. Are Bowen and Trent out for just one game week? Yeah, pretty much. And even with Bowen, there's the odd chance, very slim chance, that he plays in Game Week 21. I don't think he will, but I'm starting him just in case. So let's actually look at where we're at with likes. So we do have almost 200 people watching. I appreciate that, but let's try to get the likes much higher to 100 plus to start with, and then we can build upon that towards the end as we approach the deadline, which is at 6:15 p.m. UK time. So still quite a long while to go. 1 hour, 40 minutes. Be sure to lock in your teams very soon, especially before the last 5 minutes where things can get hectic. There have been no site crashes this season, but you just never know how that can turn out. So actually very soon, before I get back to your questions, I'll be going for a few different screens, including predicted points and much more, that will also help you with some of your questions and decision making. Richarlison or Foden on a wild card? Foden. Definitely Foden for me. And also with the double game week announced for Man City in Game Week 25, I think that only boosts his appeal even further. Thank you, Sudindra. And like I said, I'll get back to the questions very soon. But first, let's finally go through some different screens. And we'll start off with the FDR, the fixture difficulty rating according to Fantasy Football Hub. And top of that list is Brighton. And actually, you know what? We'll do this actually, just so you can see the names there. So Brighton is top. Man United is second. Sheffield United, Liverpool and Aston Villa complete the top 5. But once the double game week for 25 is taken into account, remember Man City have Chelsea and Brentford at home in game week 25, they will surely go up, probably to first place actually. So let me actually refresh the page and see if they've added it. No, they haven't added it yet, but they will very soon. I would anticipate Man City being top of the FDR now, with Brighton second, Man United third, and the rest in the preceding order. In terms of the bottom five, we've got Bournemouth right down there at the bottom, Everton, Burnley, Nottingham Forest, and Chelsea also at the very bottom of this list for the fixture difficulty rating up until game week 26. So that is the next 6 game weeks there. In terms of predicted points for game week 21, Saka is top with 6.2 points. Palmer, Tony, and Bruno Fernandes complete the top 4 with Sterling, Gross, Odegaard, Gordon, Solanke, and Watkins finalising the top 10. In terms of price changes, Areola, João Pedro, Emerson, not Emerson Real by the way, Emerson Palmieri, Foden, and Palmer could all go up in price tonight. Salah and Son have been projected to drop down in price for several days now, and it hasn't happened. Emerson Real, though, is looking to go down. Hwang Hee-chan, Baldock. Then you've got other options like Semenyo and Sergio Gomez, and more transfers will definitely play a part now over the next hour or so. So expect Richarlison to rise either today or tomorrow. The same goes for assets like Estupinian as well. In terms of Draft Hound, you can see here, in terms of the next 3 game weeks, Foden is top for predicted points. Then you've got Palmer, Alvarez, Solanke, Watkins, Saka, Odegaard, Bernardo Silva, Richarlison, and João Pedro. Be sure to check out the link in the description below. Use my link and sign up to become a pro paid tier member, and you gain access to all these tools, including predicted points and the player rankings, which is probably the best tool they have to offer. And now let's go for some stats comparisons, which could help you. Now for the captaincy, Saka and Palmer will be the 2 template options, and over the course of the season, Saka does have better numbers in general, but it's very close actually in a lot of metrics. If you look at, for example, big chances, Palmer with 9 and Saka with 11, and Saka has played a lot more minutes than Cole Palmer, but Palmer has the advantage in terms of goals, and in terms of goal contributions, it's very similar indeed, but really with shots on target, shots in the box, even XG, expected assists, pretty much every single metric you see on screen, Saka does lead in them, but it might be worth checking out the last 6 game weeks, for example, where Arsenal have faltered and really struggled in the Premier League and also all competitions. Now, this other graphic I want to show you is Gross versus Richarlison. I've already had a few people ask me, why did you go for Gross over Richarlison? I have covered that already. But in terms of the season stats, Gross does have a lot of them in his favour, except XG and also shots really, but actually, you know, still identical, not far off. 1 more shot on target, shots in the box, Richarlison has double, and also twice as many big chances. But apart from that, Pascal Gross leads in most metrics, including minutes, bonus points, and everything else you see on screen. And I think he can do really well. And you have to say the fixtures for Brighton are tremendous. That's why they are top of the FDR up until Man City will probably usurp them with their double game week 25 fixtures coming into play today. And that's pretty much it that I want to cover. I might show you FPL.Team later. You know what? I'll show you it right now very quickly, just to remind those of you about the team selection video, what I talked about. What I can easily do now with the transfers I made in Game Week 21 is buy Haaland for Cameron Archer in Game Week 22, assuming that Erling Haaland is fit by then when he faces Burnley at home, and he would be my captain and Foden would be my vice. So if Haaland is still not fit, Foden might end up being my captain for Game Week 22. So let's now go back to my team, and I'll do predictions probably later on, close to when the deadline locks in. But in the meantime, we'll be going through your questions. Be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. We are very close now to 100 likes, and that'd be massively appreciated, to say the least. Let me go through the super chat now. I appreciate that very much. By Hamad, thank you very much for the super chat, mate. Really appreciate the Rate My Team video. Thanks for covering my team. Thank you very much for the super chat and for sending in your team. Yeah, it was a very good one, by the way. I think your team was Qatari's Call, right? I think it was. You've got a different name here compared to when I read out the username, but I'm assuming it's Qatari's Call, the first team we rated in that video. Thank you very much for that, and hopefully that helps you to sort out all the issues you have and to get a green arrow in Game Week 21. Play Trippier or Konsa? I'd probably go for Konsa, but that's only because Trippier's playing Man City. Wildcard Rashford or Jota? Jota. Sell Zinchenko, Colwill or Trent for Estupinian? Difficult one because Chelsea could blank in Game Week 26. They've still got some decent fixtures coming up, but it's kind of mixed bag. You know what? I'd probably sell Colwill. That would be my preference, but of course with Zinchenko still being flagged, not a certainty to start in Game Week 21, I can understand if you go in that direction instead, but I definitely keep Trent and it's between the other two to sell, and my preference will be to keep Zinchenko and sell Colwill from your situation. Who to captain this week? Watkins, Palmer, Foden. From those three, Palmer's my favourite. Then it's probably Foden, and then after that you've got Watkins. But really, with all three of them, you could see all of them returning, but not to a great extent, and getting a double-digit return. And you could also say the same about Saka, to be fair. It's a very difficult week for the captaincy. It's quite open, you could argue, and it's a great opportunity there for people to break away from the template and do very well. Thank you, Hamad, and good luck to you as well. Salah to Gross and Gusto, Chilwell to Stupinian. Yeah, my preference would be to sell Chilwell to Stupinian, but Chilwell is back now, but I'd rather have Gusto. He's much cheaper, he's got bonus points potential, and he's an enabler at that price point. Quick question, why play Trent? Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. The reason why I've gone for Trent is just in the odd chance, and to be honest, there's probably next to zero chance that he's going to start, but I'm just starting him just in case, and I've got Pedro Porro to come off the bench if needed, and the same goes for Archer in for Jared Bowen. Now, in the case of Bowen, it's more likely that he's going to play in Game Week 21 compared to Trent, but yeah, I'm going for both of them in my starting 11. There's nothing to lose, really. I doubt Trent will be on the bench and come on for a one-pointer. Do you think Foden minutes are a risk considering all the fixtures is he worth getting? Yeah, Man City's fixture schedule will start to be packed, especially with the double game week coming up, but no, not really. And a lot of people point towards De Bruyne being back, but I really see De Bruyne as an adversary and competitor for Alvarez, not Foden. So yeah, with Foden, I think he's fine for the meanwhile. He might get the odd benching, we all know that, but he should start, I'd say, 4 of the next 5 Premier League games. Do you think Jota will start? Yes, I think he will start, but I can't say the same for Game Week 22, 23, and 24. There will be benchings in the process. Considering Joao Pedro for Alvarez, look, I'm not completely against it, but as I'll recommend to most people, if you don't have Haaland and you want to buy him back for Game Week 22 or 23, I would use that spot to sell Alvarez to Haaland in Game Week 22 whenever he's available. But yeah, if you've got Haaland already and you just want to go for different forward punts, Joao Pedro is one of the best options out there. Rashford or Richarlison? I'd go for Richarlison. Heel says Hwang Hee-chan to Gross -4 or wait for next game week. Tricky one. If you have no one coming in terms of bench cover, then yeah, I would go for the -4 hit. But it's not absolutely necessary, in my opinion. Any news on Taylor? No. There's literally no news. Company, kept his cards to his chest and gave nothing away. Will you start De Bruyne? Well, if I had De Bruyne, I would start him, but De Bruyne said it himself last week. He doesn't expect to start, and his minutes will be managed. And with Guardiola, he has kind of protected De Bruyne a lot in the last year or so. So I'm not so sure about that. Thank you very much for the super chat, Aaron. So Aaron Rani, thank you very much. Not the first time, and I appreciate it. Did Jesus to Tony swap Hwang to Gross or Archer to Joao Pedro? Great question. My preference would be Hwang to Gross, but Archer to Joao Pedro is not bad at all. But a bit similar to what I said 1 or 2 questions ago. If I don't have Erling Haaland and he's available in Game Week 22, my preference would be to buy him back. And Archer to Haaland would be ideal in that scenario. So yeah, I'd rather do Hwang to Gross, and Jesus to Tony, by the way, I think could be a great move. And please start free. Virgil van Dijk, Walker, Borro, Doughty, and Estupinian. Estupinian is first on the list this week. Then I'd go for Doughty, and then probably Virgil van Dijk, with Borro being first on the bench and Walker second. Hi Dylan, would you replace Son to Gross for a -4 or do nothing? A bit similar to other scenarios, and I'm trying to make this very clear. Context is very important. Who do you have coming off the bench? Are you down to 10 men? That also plays a part, of course. But yeah, if you've got decent bench cover, you can keep Son. That's absolutely fine. But yeah, Gross is still a good transfer in for a -4 or for free next week. So I don't mind it either way. But it all depends on your bench cover. If you're happy with your bench cover, don't take the -4 hit this week, in my opinion. Gordon versus Gross. Right now, if I'm buying one, it's Gross, and that's what I've done myself. Gordon has been very consistent this season, only 1 blank in home matches. Could be 2 after this weekend, or yeah, whenever City play. But yeah, for me, Gross is the better option with fixtures in mind, the bonus points potential. Brighton are also seeming to improve game by game, whilst Newcastle have been faltering since November. So there's a few things to take into account, but I'd rather go for Gross right now. President Leacher says, need your help to bench 1. Yeah, difficult, but I'd probably bench Richarlison. Odegaard captain, if not Saka. I'd still go for Palmer. I can understand why people would have that logic. You know, they'd say to me, well, if you're captaining Saka, why can't I captain Odegaard? Well, you can. And Odegaard has a high ceiling because of his bonus points potential, but he's been very inconsistent this season in terms of attacking contributions. He creates a lot of chances recently, but no assists. Arsenal have been finishing very poorly. I'd rather go for Palmer over Odegaard for the captaincy. Sian says, hey Dylan, have Taylor as my 11th man. Is a -4 for Trent. From Trent to Estupinian and Son to Foden worth it? That would mean no direct route to Haaland next week. Well, the issue with that, though, is you have 10 players right now, don't you? Taylor's your 11th. And if you do Trent to Estupinian and Son to Foden, you have to bench someone else entirely. So I'm not so sure. I don't think you need to make both transfers necessarily, but at the same time, you know, Trent to Estupinian and Son to Foden will only help you get Haaland back eventually, but it would probably mean taking a -4 hit in Gameweek 22 as well. I'd probably make both transfers in that case, especially if you really want Haaland back. Amif says wildcard active. Yeah, it's a good team. Just thinking about, you know, potential issues. I would say Neto, just because he just came back from injury, but he did get an assist in the FA Cup. Jota's a minutes concern all the time. Emerson Palmieri is not a bad option, actually, but you've already got Areola, and I do think West Ham have been fortunate to keep 3 clean sheets in a row. Their XGC, I think, was 5 or 6, and Areola's been impressive. West Ham have also been quite good in the big games, but I don't expect them to keep this up on a long-term basis. So as a result, I would recommend a different option in the defence compared to Emerson Palmieri. And I know Arsenal have been poor, but I would still recommend, or at least consider, an Arsenal option, whether you go for Saka in the midfield or you go for an Arsenal defender. But yeah, apart from that, you know, it's a very good team. I'm pretty much nitpicking with that. Any chance of Saka being benched? No. No. Ask any Arsenal fan. I mean, it'd be a shock. It'd be a huge shock if Saka got a rest. And I think with this break that Arsenal have, it's a great time now for him to be recharged and also put in a great performance against Crystal Palace. So is there a chance? I mean, you can't officially rule it out, but I think it's very unlikely. I'd say a 10% chance of him being benched. I don't think he will. Start 2, Bowen, Zinchenko and Archer. Well, I'd start Bowen just in case, really. So I'd go for Bowen and Zinchenko and have Archer ready to come on. Simon Wanderi says, who to captain, Foden, Saka, Alvarez or Solanke? My personal preference would be Saka, then it's Foden, and then you're looking at either Solanke or Alvarez. But yeah, Saka for me. Tukamana say, too many colourful players in my team. Yeah, of course, colours are all good, but not in this case in FPL. Buy Gross or Richarlison? Gross for me. I had a similar predicament and I went for Gross. Don't captain Palmer, we have no striker. Yeah, but Palmer's still done well, you know, regardless of Chelsea's problems and woes throughout the season. But yeah, he's my vice captain right now for my own situation. Start Areola or Raya? I'd go for Areola. No worry, K-Man. So, yeah, Bava says, should I hold in Cuckoo or replace him for Pedro for a -4? I don't mind that Pedro move at all, but as I keep saying to people, if you don't have Haaland and you want him back in Gameweek 22, what are you going to do? Who are you going to sell to get Haaland back in? So in that sort of scenario where you might want him back very soon, I'd probably just wait it out and have someone else come in for Nkuku. The problem is, if you don't have good bench cover, then yeah, fair enough, I'd go for Pedro. But just consider that as well about Erling Haaland and what you want to do with your forwards long term. Should I start Leno or Dubravka? Says Wallahi. Hopefully people don't, yeah. So Wallahi says, should I start Leno or Dubravka? I'd go for Leno. Difficult one because a lot of times this season, the goalkeeper with the more difficult fixture has done better. But yeah, I'd probably go for that. Milner says, unfortunately had to wildcard. The team is Areola, Dubravka, Estupinian, Borro, Van Dijk, Doughty, Richards, Palace defender, Foden, Saka, Palmer, Gross, Richarlison, Watkins, Pedro, Haaland moves, Van Dijk to Trent later. It looks good, but you also have to think about what's your plan to get Salah back in Gameweek 25. And also with Richards, could you not get a better defender there, in my opinion? I think you could upgrade that Richards spot. The rest looks absolutely fine, by the way, but also have in mind your transfer plans to buy Salah back in Gameweek 25 or maybe later in the season. Vasco Fernandez says, I don't have free transfers and I have Trent, Son, Bowen and Taylor. What should I do? I won't do Estupinian or Foden, but if I go Estupinian for a -8, I need to swap for Trent to have Haaland in the next game week. Yeah, I can understand your predicament there. My preference would be Son to Foden. And if that enables you to afford Haaland in Game Week 22, I think that's the best move for you. Son is projected to miss 3 game weeks at least. It could be 4. Not to mention Spurs could blank in Game Week 26. And if that comes to fruition, I think Son won't become an option until Game Week 27. So my preference, mate, would be Son to Phil Foden. Yusuf says, earlier this week I transferred Salah to Bowen. Should I transfer him Foden for Bowen -4? Once again, depends on bench cover. If you've got decent bench cover, I'd probably just hold on to Bowen because he's still probably the better option compared to Foden. Now, with Foden, you probably want him anyway because of the double in Game Week 25. But yeah, it depends on your bench cover, Yusuf. Let me know about that. Play Luiz and roll, or Salah to Jota and play Jota. Well, I'm assuming that would be for free and not for a -4 hit. But my preference would be playing Douglas Luiz. No worries, Sian. So Gross instead of Foden means I can get Haaland on a free Game Week 22. Taylor was my 10th, meant 11th. Oh, with Son sold. Okay. Would you still pick Foden to Gross with the Haaland problem the next game week? I mean, it's not ideal. I would rather have Foden, especially with the double game week in 25. Yeah, I can see what you mean there. Now, Sian, if you can go for Foden, let's say, and then also buy Gross next week and also buy Haaland, that would be ideal. And if it means a -4 hit, that's still worthwhile. So if that's the case, I would do it, Sian. But if, you know, doing those sort of moves would require -8 or more, then I'd just save the hassle for now and buy Gross. You can always get Foden a few weeks from now. Bowen is fine. Well, let's wait and see. I hope he is. That'd be great. Richarlison or Jota? Richarlison, just because of the minutes for now. Bowen is for sure not playing. I'd say 78% chance of not playing. He's very unlikely to play in Game Week 21. I would assume he's back for Game Week 22 against Bournemouth, that's for sure, but not Game Week 21. I think that's very unlikely. I've just got him in my starting 11 just in case. Dylan, best goalkeepers to rotate with each other. I still think Areola and Raya look pretty good. Areola and Dubravka is also fine. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I'd aim for right now. Who's the best captain? Saka for me, then it's Palmer, then probably Foden, and then I'd go for Gross. -4 Foden or just play Gordon? I think I'd go for the -4 for Foden. Gordon's fine, by the way. When the fixtures clear up for Newcastle, he would become one of the best midfielders to buy yet again. But yeah, I'd go for Foden. Is Darwin good to have? Not really. You have the odd haul, of course, and Darwin just causes chaos, but I'd rather go elsewhere. Yo, Dylan, hope you're good. Start Solanke or Johnson. I'd go for Solanke, and hopefully you're well too, Sonny. I captain Palmer and starting Leno. Oh, yeah, I mean, you would probably hope that you get something one way or the other. West Ham mate says Bowen out for 6 weeks, says Stuart. Huh. Yeah, there's a lot of contradicting reports. Jacob Steinberg, who's very reliable, says he's out for 2 to 3 weeks. And then you have some people saying he'll be fine for this week, and then others saying, you know, like you just said now, 4 weeks or more. I'm not so sure. I'd probably say he's out for 2 to 3 weeks, and he'll be back for Game Week 22. But a lot is still up in the air. Should I start Doughty? Says Adam Malone. Yeah, I don't mind that. It depends who you start him over. But if it's Doughty versus Botterill, I'd probably go for Doughty this week. Thank you. You never walk alone, Anchor. Happy New Year to you as well. Pick 2. I would go for Solanke and Pedro. Those are my favourites. And even in the long term, actually, I'd rather go for Pedro over Alvarez right now. Start Areola or Raya? Areola. Hi, Dylan. Need to bench one out of Saka, Palmer, Foden, Gross, Jota. That is going to backfire either way, I think. All of them are capable of some big returns. Saka and Palmer definitely have to start. Yeah, you know what? I'm probably looking at that, and maybe I'd bench Jota, but that could be famous last words. Honestly, it's difficult to bench that quality of player. Any thoughts on Sterling? I'm not there. If you want a Chelsea player, go for Palmer. Bear in mind that Chelsea still have a good chance of reaching the Carabao Cup final, and if they do, they will blank in Game Week 26, so I wouldn't go for many Chelsea players in general. I think Palmer is more than enough. I wouldn't go for Sterling. Thought about it, I can just do Saka and Foden to Salah and Gordon. Yeah, that looks good, Milner. Has great fixtures in the future. With the Richard situation, he's benchable, but also nailed and plays in midfield as a defender. Yeah, it's just Palace have pretty poor fixtures. They, haven't really clicked in a long while. They've got a bad run for the last 10 game weeks, really. But Yeah, absolutely. You thought it, pretty well. You've got some plans to easily get Salah back in, so that's absolutely fine. A lot of us will find ourselves in situations where we have to sacrifice Saka to buy back Salah. Bench one between Watkins, Alvarez, Solanke, and Richarlison. I'd bench Richarlison. It's between him and Alvarez, and I'd probably bench Richarlison. Sahil says Lamptey to Emerson, Doughty, or Cash to Estupinian, and Salah to Foden, and Hwang Hee-chan to Gross for a -4. Tricky one, but I probably do Cash to Estupinian. That's my favourite. Callum Jr. says main dilemma for me is Tony or Pedro. Want to start having more fun with FPL. Yeah, I'd rather go for Tony. That's mainly based on what he did last season and the quality of player, but it might take him a bit of a while to get back up to speed. And also, Callum, Tony has a double in Gameweek 25, so despite the fixtures not being great, the amount of fixtures could compensate for that. So, yeah, Tony for me. 10 players only available, plus Charlie Taylor as a possible 11th. If fit, at home versus Luton Town. Any comments on taking a hit or expecting to play? Well, based on the lack of information, Taylor not being spotted in any training picture, I would be worried. My guess is that Taylor won't play, but if I had him personally, I would start him just in case, because on paper, one of the better defenders this week. So, yeah, if you're asking me, I don't think he'll start, but it's worth playing him just in case. And if you've got decent bench cover, it's not worth taking massive hits to, kind of deal with that issue. Doughty with a -8 will play Trippier without hits. Jesus, apologies for that. I'd rather go for Trippier. I don't think it's worth going for Doughty for a hit this week. And also bear in mind, if Liverpool reach the Carabao Cup final, they will blank in Gameweek 26, and that will also mean Luton Town will become a blank in Gameweek 26, but they would double in Gameweek 25 most likely. So there's a lot of things to consider there, but yeah, I'd rather just keep Trippier and play him. Should sell Salah and Gay and bring in Foden and Estupinian for a -4? Yeah, I'm absolutely on board with that. Some people might say with the way Arsenal are playing and their finishing problems, you could argue Gay could keep a clean sheet, but I don't think that'll be the case, and I'd take the -4 hit. Prince Izzy says, hey Dylan, por favor, pick 3 Konsa, Gabriel, Borro, Trippier, Colwill. I'd go for Gabriel, Colwill, and probably Konsa. You know what, I'd go for Borro, like I said earlier in the stream, just for the attacking potential. So Gabriel, Borro, and Colwill would be my 3. Konsa first on the bench, and Trippier second. Raja says, Salah, Son, Lamptey to Foden, Bruno, Estupinian for a -4. Worth it? Yes, it is worth it, but I'd rather go for Richarlison, as you say, or even Jota, Gross. I think they're all better options than Bruno Fernandes at this moment in time. My preference would be Gross, but the transfers in general will be worth it. Ashish says, hey mate, Jota, Pedro, Richarlison, and Van Heck. Start to and bench order of the rest, and whom to captain among Alvarez, Watkins, Saka, Foden, and Palmer. So yeah, in terms of the starting question, I would go for Jota and Joao Pedro. As for benching order of the rest, it would be Richarlison first and Van Heck second. With the captaincy, Saka's my favourite, then it'd be Palmer, then I'd probably go for Foden, then it's Watkins, and Alvarez is last. Have both Doughty and Borro, as well as Estupinian and Gabriel, says Adam Malone. Yeah, okay, fair enough. I think I went through your team situation a couple of minutes ago, didn't I? Oh yeah, should I start Doughty? Yeah, I'd probably just start Doughty, just in case, and that's absolutely fine. Your defense is looking pretty good, actually, so that's not too shabby. EY says Son and Salah to Foden and Richarlison, a -4 hit. Transferred early, worth taking another hit for Estupinian. Have Saliba, Borro, Trent, Zinchenko, and Taylor. Yeah, I think that's fine. I'd go for the -4 hit. I do prefer other midfielders over Richarlison, but he's still one of the better options to replace Salah or Son. So yeah, I would go for it. In terms of another hit for Estupinian for a -8, probably not, because I expect Zinchenko to be available. Saliba, Borro, and Trent, well, not Trent, Saliba and Borro are absolutely fine for this week. Taylor could still start. You can just have him in your starting 11 just in case. I don't expect him to play, though. I can understand why you're asking that, but I'd probably keep things as they are. It's a tough one, because Estupinian with a -4 hit will pay off the transfer long term, so it's not a bad option, even for a -8 hit. So, yeah, tricky one, but I think I'd keep things as they are. Would you replace Son to Gross from -4 or do nothing? Bench is Son, Bowen, and Lascelles. In the striker position, I have Archer. So if I do it, substitute Archer to Gross. Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. I'd probably do the -4 hit. It's not absolutely necessary, but I'd do it. Probably going to have to take a -8, says Alex. Bowen, Richarlison and Gross. Should I get rid of Pau Torres or Trent for Purvis Estupinian? Well, Pau Torres should be available now. That is confirmed by Unai Emery, but I'd rather keep Trent. So if you were to make a move, Pau Torres out for Estupinian is my recommendation. Away kits, just type in FPL Away Kits Chrome extension and you can add it to your browser. Will Zinchenko or Cash play? I don't think Cash will start. As for Zinchenko, I think he does. But then again, look, with Zinchenko, he'll definitely be in the squad. In terms of starting, that's up in the air, but I personally would back him to. Solanke, Jesus, Tony, Nketiah, choose one. Well, Solanke's my favourite right now. Bournemouth are bottom of the FDR as things stand, but yeah, Solanke's my favourite. Then it's Tony. I wouldn't consider the rest. Abdi says, I wanted to activate my wildcard and mistakenly I made changes for a -24. Can turn into the wildcard. Yeah. Whether you play the free hit or the wild card, it will eliminate your hits and you will not be losing 24 points into the abyss. So yeah, in that situation, it might be worth wildcarding. It's not ideal though, because you will have a lot of information after Game Week 22 because of the Carabao Cup finalists and also the confirmed blanks in Game Week 26, and also a bit more clarity on who will blank in Game Week 29 due to the FA Cup. Start one, Taylor Zinchenko. I'd probably go for Zinchenko still, but yeah, in terms of starting probabilities, Zinchenko's more likely anyway, and a better chance of a clean sheet, I'd say. No Haaland, Lascelles to Estupinian, Son to Foden for a -4, or Salah to Gross, Richarlison, Son to Foden for a -4. My preference would be... I mean, it's tough. It really is tough. I'm not sure, what these transfers would imply or what they would implicate in terms of being able to buy Haaland back in Game Week 22, and that plays a big part as well. But my favourite transfer would be to sell Salah and Son and buy Foden and Gross. That's my personal preference. Would you swap Taylor for Estupinian if we find out Taylor's not starting? Yeah, I'd probably swap him, yes. And to be honest, based on the information we've gotten this week, or the lack of information, it's looking very unlikely. Thank you, Callum Jr. I appreciate it. Going now, so have a good rest of your stream and good luck for the game week. Likewise, Callum, thank you very much. Michael Newton says, would you take a hit and swap Taylor for Estupinian? Yep, I just covered that, sorry. Adam Malone, no worries. Thank you, Ashish. Mauro says, I have no bench, Trent, Lamptey and Hwang Hee-chan, so maybe keep Taylor and -4 Lamptey to bring a nice defender. Yeah, and I'd go to Estupinian there, Mauro. Nkuku for Pedro or Pinnock for Estupinian? I do Pinnock to Estupinian because with Nkuku, I'd rather sell him to Haaland in Game Week 22 or Game Week 23. Thoughts on just keeping Salah all the way through? I think it's viable. For those that can afford Haaland in Game Week 22 whilst keeping Salah, that's an ideal scenario. Now, you might be a bit weaker for the next couple of weeks, but it could all be worth it in the end. It will be very difficult for those that sold Salah, like myself, to buy him back in. And of course, a lot is up in the air. When do Egypt get knocked out? They'll play a big part. Do Liverpool reach the Carabao Cup final? They almost certainly will, in my opinion, but it's still a possibility that they don't. So, yeah, I think keeping Salah all the way through is justified if you can still afford Haaland next week. Who's a better captaincy option, Richarlison or Joao Pedro? I'd say Joao Pedro this week. Nkuku to Pedro, we've covered that. Bavia, sorry. I'd go for Pinnock to Estupinian. Should I get Foden or Richarlison and Son out, says Yusuf? I'd get Foden and I'd sell Son. Going for a Tony captaincy, Foden vice. I like it. Good luck. Of course, with Tony, it is risky with the lack of minutes, and Nottingham Forest have been quite good under Nuno Espirito Santo. But I can think of worse. I really can. Abdi, I have covered that question, so be sure to rewind a few minutes and you'll get my answer. Rajat says, I have a doggy. Should I make a move to Bodro? I'm on a wild card. Yes, I think it's definitely worth it. Colwill or Gusto to Estupinian? I'd rather sell Colwill and keep Gusto. Daniel Keelan says, is Ruben Dias a good differential with a double two? Well, in terms of Man City defenders this season, Walker seems like the best of a bad bunch, but Diaz could be fine. He has had a few surprise benchings over the last couple of months, but you would expect him to start most games. Yeah, it's a difficult one for City defenders, it really is, but he could be okay. I don't think he's particularly great anyway. You're really relying on clean sheets, and that's pretty much the bulk of it. Keeping Salah or Trent? I'd rather keep Trent because he's likely to return in Game Week 22 or 23, while Salah will probably not return until Game Week 24 at the earliest. Who to bring in out of Gross or Richarlison? Gross. That's what I've done myself, so I'm going to stick with that. I would like to roll the transfer by a free out on the bench, which means that I am starting Lascelles and Mabama. yeah, I'd use a free transfer because Lascelles will probably not start anyway. And if he does, it's Man City. The most he can probably aspire to is 2 points. So it's not looking great there. Mabama could be okay this week, but Lascelles, I'm not really feeling it. So I would make a transfer. Sell Sinchenko or cash for a -8. I'd rather sell cash. How do you feel about Joao Pedro? He's probably my 5th favourite forward in the game right now. Of course, it includes Haaland, who is still unavailable. So excluding Haaland, I'd say the best forwards to buy are Watkins, Solanke, Tony, and then it's Joao Pedro. Lascelles playing? I don't think so, mate. No worries, Abdi. Thank you very much. I'm glad to hear you saw it. Saka, Bowen, or Foden? Saka. Saka right now. Of course, with... Well, I might be wrong about that, actually, with Foden having a double in 25, great fixtures, also good form. Yeah, right now I'd say Foden, then it's Saka, then Bowen, but the only reason I'm putting Bowen third is because he's injured right now and will likely miss Game Week 21. Yeah, that's absolutely fine, Milner. You thought it through. I'm still not a big fan of Richard, but, you can absolutely go for him and see what goes there. And, yeah, that's absolutely fine. How much do you have left in the bank? I should know this off by heart, but I'm pretty sure it's 0.5 million. I can double check that now very quickly just to give you a definitive answer. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I've got 0.5 million. Just going to double check that here. No, sorry, I'm saying 0.5 million. If I had 0.5 million with this team, I mean, you'd probably be laughing at me, wouldn't you? I've got 9.9 million in the bank. If I could do Archer to Haaland, I would have 0.5 million left over. That's what I meant. So yeah, 9.9 million in the bank, and that will be used to do Archer to Haaland in Game Week 22 if Haaland is available. Start Pedro Porro or Doughty. Tricky one, but I'd probably go for Doughty this week. Thanks for the suggestion, but already have a Stupinian and Porro. Any other option? Well, Arsenal defenders would still be in the recommendation list. You can also consider a Man City defender with their double in 25, so Kyle Walker could enter your thinking, but yeah, this week is a bit awkward to buy defenders. A lot of them have tough fixtures. Stupinian is the best of a bad bunch, really. So yeah, probably Arsenal or City defender. Dylan, who are the 2 best for this game week from Foden, Richarlison, Joao Pedro? Foden and Joao Pedro for me. Antoine says, I can field 8 players, Bowen Dow. Should I take a -8 or wildcard? Take a -8. I don't think it's worth wildcarding over a -8. Alvarez or Pedro? I prefer Joao Pedro at the moment. Upo Khan says, Udogi, Colwell, Solanke, Cunha, whom to bench? Very confused between whom to bench. Udogi would be the one I'd bench. I'd start the rest. I have Palmer, Saka, and Gordon. What are the 2 best other midfielders until Salah returns? I think Foden is probably a standout option. So Foden for me, especially with a confirmed double in Game Week 25. The other midfielder I'd probably recommend is Gross. Richarlison and Jota also enter the thinking, but for me, Foden and Pascal Gross would be the next 2 best. Salah to Foden or KDB, I'd rather go for Foden. And Son to Richarlison or Jota, Richarlison. Saka, Bowen or Foden, I've covered that, I'd go for Foden. Doughty or Gross, Gross. Are you free hitting in Game Week 25? I'm not ruling it out, but as things stand, I'm more likely to save the free hit for later in the season. Best 5 captain options for this game week. Off the top of my head, I'd say Saka, Palmer, Foden. Yeah, tricky one, isn't it, this week? I think those would be my top 3. Watkins will be 4th, just for the sheer consistency, and I'd maybe put Stupinian in 5th place. Now, there are some outside picks like Solanke with a tough fixture, but he can still do well. Diogo Jota in that same game. There's a few players that can surprise this week, but my top 5 is probably that. Gabriel versus Walker. Well, Walker has the double, better fixtures, Man City are in better form, but I still think Arsenal are better defensively, and once they can get things sorted, I still think they can go on a run and be quite good in terms of FPL assets defensively. But yeah, right now, if I'm buying one, it's probably Walker for the double, and that's pretty much what it comes down to. Does Gross play advanced position? Sometimes when I see Brian was playing as a right back, it all depends on who's starting alongside him, whether it's yeah, it's a difficult one, I think, with Gross. I think he will play some games as the number 10, but there will be the odd occasion where he's sitting deep next to Baleba, and of course as a right back. There's a few different scenarios there that how it can play out, but yeah, with Gross, whether he plays as a right back or in deep midfield, I still think he can get bonus points and some attacking returns. I do understand your concern there though, and ideally you'd want him starting as an attacking midfielder every single game, but that won't be the case. So do you think Saka won't be on the bench no matter what? Well, I mean, just think of the last time he was benched. You know, he missed the game against Man City because of injury, but he started every single other game this season in the Champions League and Premier League. So it just doesn't make sense for me for him to be benched. Actually, with Chelsea, with Palmer, you know, with the Carabao Cup second leg, you know, shortly after the Fulham fixture, you could argue he's also at risk. But yeah, I still think he'll start, and the same goes for Saka. My bench is Gordon, Senesi, Trent. Should I hold Bowen or sell him for Foden for a -4? I'd hold Bowen if possible. Salah to Richarlison or Kabore to Estupinian for a -4. I mean, my preference would be Kabore to Estupinian, bestie, but if you want Haaland back in Game Week 22, can you afford it whilst keeping Salah in your team and on your bench? If you can, then yeah, definitely do Kabore to Estupinian, but if you're not able to, then that is a big concern, and you might need to do Salah to Richarlison next week anyway. My preference would be Kabore to Estupinian regardless, though. Thank you, Pocollector, a great name. Great stream as always. I took a -4 to get in Jota, Gross, and Estupinian in. Got Saka, Palmer, Foden already. Banking 10 to allow for Archer to Haaland when, if he is back in 22. Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I bought in Gross, Estupinian as well, and Foden, who you have already. And I also have roughly the same amount of funds to do Archer to Haaland. So, yeah, naturally, I think your plans are good because I've done the same thing myself. We're not sheep, you know. Maybe some people will argue against that. But, yeah, I think your transfer plans are absolutely sound and they make sense. Does Alvarez start for sure? I believe so. I think he will start with De Bruyne on the bench. Roberto Di Matteo says, Concert or Trippier to Estupinian for a -4. I think I'd rather do Trippier to Estupinian. It is tricky because in a couple of weeks' time, starting from Game Week 23, Newcastle have some good fixtures, and that's where Trippier could become a great option. But around a similar price, I'd rather go for Trent Alexander-Arnold, and you might need those funds to buy back Erling Haaland and Salah. Jota on the wing or Richarlison? Well, look, this week Jota looks better based on the fixture, but I'd rather buy Richarlison this week if I had to pick one for the next 4 to 5. Alex ICH says Son to Gross for a -4 and play Archer to have an 11-man squad, or play Archer with a possible 10-man squad with Taylor Doubt. Tricky one. I'd probably go for the -4 option. It's not absolutely needed, but I would rather do that. If keeping Trent is an option, then play Concert or sell Concert to Estupinian for a -4. I'd probably just play Concert. I like Estupinian a lot, but for a -4 hit this week, yeah, I mean, Estupinian is probably a captaincy contender out of the defenders, but yeah, I'm not so sure about that. I think I'd just play Concert. Jota considerable. Of course he is. I've talked about him a lot of times in the last 2 weeks, but I think there are better options. Solanke, Alvarez, Watkins, bench 1. Alvarez. Consort, Trippier, I've covered. Bowen to Gross from -4, which gets me 11, and then get Haaland back for free. If you need to do that to be able to buy Haaland back next week, then fair enough, but otherwise, I'd rather keep Bowen. Solanke or Pedro, I still prefer Solanke. 5 best midfielders on the wildcard. Check out my best wildcard team video, the updated version. Saka, Palmer, Gross, Richarlison, they all enter the thinking. And I think the 5th one is probably Saka, Palmer, Foden, Gross, and I'd probably say Richarlison. That's my top 5. Jota wouldn't be too far behind. Consort or Trippier to Estupinian for a -4. Yeah, sorry, you've kind of spammed that way too much. Juntao says Areola, Gabriel, Borro, Walker, Taylor, Saka, Gordon, Palmer, Watkins, Alvarez, Solanke, Sub, Son, Salah, Trent. 1 free transfer, 1.1 million in the bank. Your team looks good, all things considered. I would think of selling one of your Son or Salah options and then going to Foden. I think that's what I do. Yeah, Foden or Gross in for Salah or Son, depending on what your transfer plans are in the next couple of weeks. My preference would be Salah out, and I would buy, Foden or Gross, and then you can use those funds to buy back Erling Haaland very soon. Start Taylor or Archer? I'd rather start Taylor, but I don't expect him to play, to be quite honest with you. Bench Solanke or Saka. I'd rather bench Solanke, but either player aren't really... You don't want to bench Solanke or Saka this week, in my opinion. Darbilau says 6 flags. Others are Martinelli, Dallo, Lascelles on the wildcard. Jota considerable. Yeah, of course he's considerable, but I just think there are better options elsewhere. I would sell Dean to buy Stupinian and sell Son for Palmer -4. Yeah, good transfers, absolutely. Yeah, I changed it just to kind of evaluate, really, Wei-Seng. You know, my handles are still the same. Everything is still Dylan RCM. You can find my channel like that. It's, you know, what I've built throughout the last few years. But I think FPL Dylan could help with the algorithm, so to speak, the searches and stuff. So I'll evaluate it, see what happens. And if it has good results, I'll keep it. Maybe change some, you know, what's it called, handles and stuff to FPL Dylan. But yeah, I do just like Dylan RCM, you know, kind of being unique, different, not having the FPL in the name, but it could help with the search results. So I'm going to see how it all pans out and then, you know, make a final decision. Probably next week, Wei-Seng. It doesn't make sense to do a reaction stream with only, what, 3 or 4 games being played. There's still so much football to be played and a long break. It's 10 days or so this game week. So, yeah. Start Alvarez or Bowen? I would rather start Bowen. I mean, the thing is, he probably won't play at all. But if you're asking me, you know, if Bowen is fit and he's playing, of course I'd rather start him. So, yeah, I'd start Bowen just in case. Just expect Alvarez to come off the bench. On sort of Pedro, is that Pedro Porro or João Pedro? If it's João Pedro, I'd start him. If it's Pedro Porro, I'd rather start Konsa. Well, actually, no, I'd start Pedro Porro anyway, just for the attacking potential. But I'm a bit less keen on that. I bought in Garnacho because I need some money to bring in Haaland soon. That's fair enough. I've done something similar with Gross. But it will be an issue when you want to buy Salah back in a few weeks' time. I've used the wild card. Should I keep Bowen or Bowen out, Foden in? Well, yeah, if you're using the wild card, I would sell Bowen. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. But for those people who are looking to do a similar move, they just bought Foden in for a free transfer and now they're looking to take a hit for it, I'd rather keep Bowen in that scenario. But for you, I'd just go to Foden. I don't think Bowen will play this week. I'm just starting him just in case. So he'll say, should I sell Cash, Lamptey, Salah, Hwang Hee-chan for Foden, Gross, Emerson, and Stupinian for a -8? Good transfers. I'm not a big fan of Emerson, especially if you have Areola already, but the rest looks great. Bojwell says, rate my team. Looks pretty good, to be fair. Easily an 8 out of 10, I'd say. Maybe, yeah, 7, 8 out of 10 easily. But Doggy's my only concern. I'd rather go to Pedro Porro for the attacking potential, but the rest looks fantastic. It really does. FPL Dylan is better and easier to find, says SK-Man. Fair enough. You know, there's always going to be different opinions. I think I put a poll out once and FPL Dylan did win it. So yeah, let's wait and see, of course. You can still find my channel with FPL Dylan, even when I didn't have that as my channel name, so to speak. But like I said, I will evaluate it and see if it makes an impact. UTSHO says, I've used the wild card. Should I keep Bowen? Yeah, I've covered that. Gusto Richarlison says, Matteo Maroni. I'd rather start Gusto this week. Yeah, how about no, Leonardo? How about no? I don't need a Palace win. Oku over Saka this week. I know, very reckless. I'm sorry, but I don't think that's a good idea. I know Arsenal have been poor. Saka's been in terrible form in the last couple, but I think that could be a disaster waiting to happen. Bowen or Foden? Well, Foden right now because of a double in 25, better fixtures, no injury flag. There's a lot of reasons why. If it wasn't for the injury, I'd probably still go for Bowen, but yeah. Why do you expect Alvarez to be benched? I didn't say that. I said for a certain scenario where someone asked me, should I bench Alvarez or this player? I said I'd start Bowen. Salah to either Richarlison or Gross. Yeah, I'd go to Gross. That's my preference. Trent and most likely Bowen isn't playing. Yeah, Trent almost certainly won't. And my bench is Taylor, Sinchenko and Mabama. Worth taking a -8 hit. Yeah, I think we covered this EY, and like I said, I would take the hits and avoid playing the wild card. Yeah. Now, with Taylor, I don't think he will start, and I could be wrong about that, but Taylor to Estupinian looks absolutely fine. Do you think Trent might not be worth it? Not really. If he's back in Game Week 22, I think it justifies the decision to keep him. Now, if he's still a doubt for Game Week 23 and he's back by Game Week 24, then it would have been, you know, maybe not disastrous, but it would have been quite detrimental. And then you're in a difficult situation where Liverpool might have a double in Game Week 25, but to get Salah back in, you might need to sell Trent, and that's where the issues could lie. Is Cash starting? I don't think so. I sold him myself, but yeah, with Pau Torres back, I think that decreases his chances. Start one, Bowen, Taylor, or Trippier. Well, I'd start Bowen just in case, but I don't expect him to play. Taylor would be first on my bench and Trippier second. Who should I buy instead of Emerson for around the same price? Doughty, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember your team exactly, but I probably consider Doughty. The only issue with that is a potential blank in Game Week 26, but that could be compensated by a double in Game Week 25. Who to bench, Solanke or Richarlison? I'd rather bench Richarlison. Nick says, start Zuma, Estupinian or Sinchenko. I'd start Estupinian, yeah. Now, it's difficult to bench the likes of Sinchenko and Zuma. They could easily get clean sheets, but yeah, Stupinian looks the best this week, on paper anyway. Freedom Fighter says, I don't know what to do. I've got a wild card left. My team is Pickford, Powell, Saliba, Borro, Baldock, Saka, Palmer, Foden, Darwin, Solanke, Watkins with one free transfer, and Salah, Iwobi, Trent on the bench. Okay, so breaking it down, you've got some good picks in there. I think your forward line looks good. Solanke and Watkins especially. Foden, Saka, Palmer. You know, that's the three best midfielders you can buy right now. Your defense has some good options in there. Saliba and Bodder in particular. Pau Torres is okay and is now available. However, I've got my concerns about Pickford. Baldock isn't someone you can rely on. And then you're looking at Darwin, who is hit or miss, mainly miss. So if you're asking me, I would probably make a transfer. And look, it won't be for me as a sell anyway. I don't really rate him. I would do Salah to Gross, potentially. And then use those funds to either do Baldock to Estupinian, and you can do it next week or this week for a -4, depending on, you know, how many hits you're willing to take and, you know, how you want to weigh things up. Or the alternative transfer would be Iwobi to, let's say, Douglas Luiz, to name one particular example. Gordon in a few weeks' time looks good. And the other one is Richarlison. Richarlison, Jota, they all look good as well. So my preference there, Freedom Fighter, is Salah and Iwobi out for a -4 hit, buying Gross and Richarlison. And you can buy Stupinian, you know, for Baldock as well. You can do that. Now, you also have to weigh up the amount of funds you have to buy Erling Haaland. And yeah, it would be Darwin making way easily. Darwin to Haaland. So if you have the funds to make that all happen, those are the transfers I'd recommend. And it's about the timing. You know, that's completely down to you, whether you buy Stupinian first this week or you buy Richarlison. Bodo to Walker -4 or keep, says Jared C. Already have a doggy, will later fund Salah. Not sure. No. It's just not worth it. Bodo for me is a better option than Walker in general. The only thing Walker has over him is fixtures and also not blanking in Game Week 26, which Bodo is likely to do. Yeah, no, I'd keep Bodo still. I'd rather sell a doggy there, Jared. I can see what you're doing there, but I'm not so sure about selling Bodo for a -4 hit this week. Saka for Salah or a Stupinian for Walker? Tricky one, but I do Saka to Salah. Or Saka in for Salah. What would you think if Arsenal don't score again? I mean, this might come back to bite me, but I'm confident Arsenal will score. And you know me, I tend to be quite pessimistic of Arsenal because they kind of always let you down. But I think they'll score. I think they'll bounce back, they'll respond and go on a good run very soon. And it's now the time, you know, 1 win in 7. Arteta's done quite well because he's had a lot of these winless streaks, but he always managed to find a way to respond and then go on a good run. And I think now is the perfect time to do it. Joao Pedro Alvarez. Joao Pedro. Is Bowen ruled out for this game week? Not definitively, but he's very unlikely to play. A lot of reports indicate he'll be out for at least 2 to 3 weeks, which means he misses Game Week 21. In Kuka replacements, Watkins or Joao Pedro? Watkins. It's K-Man says KDB is set to start versus Newcastle. I'm not sure where you got that from. I'll have a look myself. It would be quite surprising, considering what De Bruyne said and also him just coming back from injury. But I don't think it really affects Foden too much. Maybe in terms of where he starts, but he can play on the right. He can play as one of the advanced 8s. I still think he can coexist with De Bruyne. I think De Bruyne is the biggest threat to Alvarez and not Foden. Freedom Fighter have covered what you should do, so be sure to rewind a few minutes. Solanke or Joao Pedro? Solanke's still the better option overall. Now, for this week, I'd probably favour Joao Pedro, but if I'm buying one, Solanke is still the one. Best captain, says Mauro. Tempted by Palmer, but other options are Estupinian, Alvarez, Watkins, Richarlison, and Martinelli. Yeah, I think out of the players you have, Palmer's my favourite, then it's Watkins, and then you're looking at Estupinian. Start Pau Torres or burn Pau Torres? FXIZ says, have 2 free transfers, already did Son to Gross. Transfer out Salah, Trent or Taylor. I'd rather transfer out Salah. Would you rather no cover on the bench, but 2 free transfers handy going into Gameweek 22, or using 2 transfers to have a slightly better bench, better team plus bench cover? Yeah, so basically take a -4 hit this week, have better bench cover and a slightly better team, or roll the transfer and have 2 next week. I think I'd rather have the 2 next week. Buying Doughty is fine since I'll bench him for Trent when he returns. Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I have Watkins, Alvarez, and Solanke up front. Should I bring in Joao Pedro? If I were to buy Joao Pedro for one of them, it would be Alvarez. But as I say to many people, you might want Haaland back in Gameweek 22. And if so, who are you going to sell? Are you going to buy Joao Pedro for 1 week and then sell him to Haaland? That could incur a lot of hits, and that might not be ideal. My preference would be to just save that Alvarez spot for Haaland, but it might be different for your scenario. And if you're not going for Haaland, I'd go for Joao Pedro or Tony. Edison or Areola this game week? Areola. Captaincy poll coming. It's on my channel already, FPL Rick. I can put another one if you want, but there is one on my channel. It was from several days ago. I did include Bowen, but most of the votes have gone to Palmer or Saka anyway, with Palmer leading the vote. Your thoughts about Benrahma? I don't rate him at all as an FPL option. The only West Ham asset I'm interested in, apart from Areola, is Bowen when he returns. Welcome, Hamza. Good to see you. Jota or Odegaard? I do prefer Jota right now. Odegaard is still fine, but yeah, I think with Arsenal, Saka is more than enough, and I'd rather go for Jota. Mauro says, sorry, or Solanke. Forgot to mention for possible captain's shout. It doesn't change it, though, so the answer remains the same. Thank you, Freedom Fire. Good to see you saw it. Garnacho or Colwill, which one would you start? I would go for Colwill. Bowen to start against Sheffield United? I don't think so. He's in there just in case, and I think for those of you with Bowen, I'd start him just in case, but yeah, the chances are it won't really lead to anything. Start Bell or Archer? Now, with Doughty, I'd definitely start him for the attacking potential. With Bell, it's a bit different, but yeah, I think I'd go for Archer in that scenario. Isak Mag says, what should I do? Well, your squad looks pretty good. Yeah, it looks pretty good, actually. I'm not really sure. I think Soufal or Trippier to Estupinian stands out. In the midfield, I think you're absolutely set for now. You can bench Bowen and you can start the 3 forwards. Well, not 3 forwards. You can start Cunha and Watkins and bench Haaland. Yeah, so I'd bench Haaland and Bowen, basically. And I'd maybe do a defender transfer. So, yeah, what you could do is start Bowen just in case. Have, you know, the likes of Bodro on your bench ready to come on if needed. So, yeah, I'd focus on Estupinian for you. Start Konsa or Trippier, says Isaac. I would start Konsa. Start Gordon or Colwill. Ooh, that is tricky. I'd go for Colwill. Patrick says, hi Dylan, did Salah to Foden with 1 free transfer? Worth doing Bowen to Gross for a -4, or just play Gordon with no bench at all? I would just play Gordon with no bench at all. It's tricky, and it could backfire, but I think that's the best move. Should I keep, hold, or sell Haaland? Yeah, I'd hold on to Haaland if you have him. Now, yeah, if you're down to 9 players, it's tricky, but you probably want to buy Haaland back next week. So if you take a -4 or -8 to sell him this week and then do the same next week, it would be a bit counterproductive. Captain Palmer or Foden? Palmer. UTSHO says Captain 1, Saka for me. You can see the answer on the screen. Foden or De Bruyne? Foden. You think Saka's a better captaincy option than Watkins? Well, Watkins has been very consistent this season. Generally speaking, Watkins is the better asset. But right now, this week, I'd probably still go for Saka. Play Zinchenko or Isak? Zinchenko. Ario says, should Gordon start ahead of Solanke, Tavernier, and Udogie? Maybe over Udogie. Or even Tavernier, to be fair. Solanke definitely starts for me. Yeah, I think Gordon over Udogie would be my personal recommendation. Watkins captain, something serious? Yeah, Watkins, look, he's probably the most consistent and reliable option we have available, you know, to us to captain. So that's not a bad shout at all. I just think his ceiling will be low. I might be completely wrong about this, but I'd say he'll score maybe 1 goal, be limited to 6 to 9 points, basically. Let's see if I'm wrong. Foden captain? not a bad shout. He's in my top 3, I think, top 3, 4. With Newcastle's XGC over the last 6, which is 20, yeah, there's a big debate and a big reason why Foden should be considered. Any info about Bowen's fitness? Well, the last report I saw, which was by Jacob Steinberg, he said that Bowen will be unavailable for 2 to 3 weeks, which means he misses Game Week 21, but should be available for Bournemouth at home in Game Week 22. Yeah, net on the wildcard isn't bad. I would still go for Douglas Luiz, Palmer, Richarlison, Gross, Jota, Saka, all these options instead. But Neto is definitely in consideration, probably in the top 10 to consider in the midfield, and it's a nice differential. Who's the template captain this week? I think amongst so-called engaged managers on Twitter and YouTube, I'd say Palmer is probably the template captain. Then when you look at the general FPL player base, Saka is the highest owned player right now with 60% ownership. So I'd probably say Saka is the template pick. Why going for Gross? Well, I disagree. I've covered this already. I don't want to kind of go into that territory too much, but I did compare their stats earlier and also talked about them a few times at the beginning of this stream. So not going to go through that again. Richarlison or Foden? I'd go for Foden. Pep could bench Foden since Pep is unpredictable. Well, yeah, of course, there's always that risk, but Foden has started the vast majority of games in the Premier League this season, and I think there is something different this time round. Let's wait and see. Delhi for you too says, hi Dylan, too many fires to put out. Kabore, Zinchenko, Salah, Alvarez out for Estupinian, Doughty, Foden, Tony, Joao Pedro. Which one will keep Alvarez? All for a -8. Want to keep Trent and Bowen. Your thoughts? I've done something similar. I've kept Trent and Bowen. And yeah, I think that is the ideal scenario. So with the fires you have to put out, I think Salah is the one to sell. And I would also focus on Kabore. I personally think Zinchenko will be available for Game Week 21 and potentially start against Palace. Alvarez should start for now. The issues will lie when De Bruyne is ready to start games consistently and Erling Haaland as well. That's where Alvarez could find himself on the bench. But in the meantime, he could live to fight another day. So Delhi for you too, I would probably do Salah and Kabore out. That is the priority. And yeah, in terms of who you buy in, oh yeah, so you're looking to sell all 4 of them at the same time. Fair enough. I'd probably limit it to 2, Salah and Kabore. And then yeah, if you had to add a third one in, probably Alvarez and keep Zinchenko for now. Jota or Gross? Gross for me. Should I take a -8 hit or start Zinchenko? Start Zinchenko is my personal preference there, Sahil. Would you sell Trent or Taylor to buy Stupinian? Personally, I'd rather sell Taylor. Then again, Trent is obviously officially ruled out for Game Week 21. But yeah, I'd sell Taylor. Bench Solanke or Bowen? I mean, if it wasn't for the injury, I would say bench Solanke out of the 2. And there is still the odd chance, very slim chance, that Bowen plays this week. I don't think he will. But yeah, all things considered, I'd start Bowen. Solanke will come on for you anyway. Taylor or Soufal to start? Soufal. Do you really think Powell will start? I do. Start Bell or Caicedo? Probably Bell. Caicedo won't offer you much FPL-wise. Why Trent? Best defender in the game. Could be available in Game Week 22 or 23. And Liverpool could double in Game Week 25. It's very likely to happen. So there's a lot of reasons why. Best midfielder apart from Saka, Palmer and Foden? I'd probably say Gross is up there. Gross, Richarlison, Jota will be the next best 3. Captain except Saka, Palmer. Thank you, Ario. I appreciate that. Welcome, Goldhead. Hello, everyone. Another fairly frantic deadline. Yeah, that is definitely the way these streams can be. Start Joao Pedro or Nunez? Joao Pedro. Will Lyle Foster start? I'm not too sure about that. Vincent Kompany didn't give much away about any of his injuries or doubts this week. Play Gay or do Trent to Stupinian for a -4? I'd probably do Trent to Stupinian for a -4. You might want Trent back very soon, though, and you have to weigh that up too. Do I make a -8 hit to field 11 players or hope Taylor plays? I personally don't think Taylor will play. And if you have no bench cover whatsoever, which I'm guessing is the case, I'd probably take a hit to an Estupinian. My captain is on screen, mate. You can see it pretty easy to see. Saka is my captain there. With United assets back, start Onana over Areola, says SOCLH. No. I mean, it's Tottenham. Areola's a much better fixture. 29 points in the last 3 game weeks. It's Areola all day long for me. Play Borro or Consa? I play Borro. Will you watch the Asian Cup? Probably not. Mauro says, what's your opinion on G. Prestiani? Kind of having the idea you root for Vélez also, right? I don't support Vélez Sarsfield, if that's what you're asking. I support Rosario Central, who won the Copa de la Liga very recently. I don't support Vélez Sarsfield. Should I go for Man United attack or midfield? I personally wouldn't. If you had to pick someone, it's probably Garnacho. Then you're looking at Bruno Fernandes and Rashford in that order. Yeah, so probably Garnacho is the answer. Should we start Haaland if we still have him? Well, he's officially ruled out for this week. A bit like Trent, and I'm still starting him anyway. But yeah, you're not really going to gain anything from it. With Trent, it's a bit different, you could say, and Bowen as well, because they play deep into Gameweek 21, whilst Man City play this weekend. So Pep Guardiola is saying he's out. He's out. Do you think Tony will start? Yes. I don't think he'll play the full 90, but I think he starts. 5 flag players, so I have to use both transfers. Thoughts on Son to Foden and Trent to Stupinian means playing 4-3-3. Yeah, I'm absolutely fine with that. You know, with Trent, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, you might want to buy him back very soon, especially if Liverpool double in Gameweek 25, but there's also a Gameweek 26 blank to also weigh that up as well. But yeah, overall, I'm absolutely fine with that. Foden and Stupinian are 2 of the best transfers to make this week. I've done both of them myself personally. I'm just going to put a link in the live chat to Draft Time, which I have shown before. So be sure to check it out. Click that link and sign up for free first, and then be sure to sign up as a Pro Pay Tier member. And yeah, use my link as well for that. That would be greatly appreciated. And yeah, just to give you an insight, that is what they're saying for the highest expected points over the next 3 game weeks. Foden is top with Palmer, Alvarez, Solanke, and Watkins in the top 5. Then you've got the Arsenal duo of Saka and Martin Odegaard. Zinchenko or Stupinian. Zinchenko probably has the higher chance of a clean sheet on paper, but Stupinian for me is the better FPL option right now. So that's what I'm going to go for. Son to Saka and -4 for Trent to Stupinian or Walker, says Goldhead. We'll keep Trippier and Salah for now. I'd rather go to a Stupinian still, Goldhead, over Walker. Yeah, absolutely fine. Your transfer plans, I'd go for Stupinian. Foden or Solanke? Foden this week. Foden or Gross? Foden. Baller says my head is spinning. Fair enough. 2 free transfers and 1 million stock. I think you have to sell one of Salah or Son. Now, you already have Haaland, to be fair. But I would probably sell one of Salah or Son because you don't want to limit yourself to 2 midfielders in your case, with Wang Yi-chan also out. And you've got Bowen injured, and you've got Gordon who faces Man City. Your midfield needs to be bolstered. So I personally do Salah and Son, the Saka and Palmer. And you could even take a -4 hit and buy Gross or Foden for Wang Yi-chan, their baller. Not for me. I mean... With Richarlison, I mean, it's just hard to envision him at Old Trafford. I mean, look, this could age terribly. Of course it could. That's the way football is. It's a humbler, as they say. But, I mean, I don't know. For the captaincy, can he score a goal? Of course he can. But enough to be the best captaincy option this week? I don't know. I'm not there yet. Is Bowen definitely out? He's very likely to miss Gameweek 21, but he should be available for Gameweek 22. Richarlison or Diogo Jota? I prefer Richarlison at the moment. Bringing in Joao Pedro and captaining him, if there's one game to risk it, it's this one. Yeah, that's for sure. De Bruyne is actually clear to play. Pep Guardiola said it himself today. He's ready to start. But De Bruyne himself said last week that he doesn't expect to start against Newcastle and he won't start many games in the near future. Vice captain Foden or Palmer? I've gone for Palmer myself. You've seen it for most of the stream. So yeah, that's pretty simple. Not for me. I don't think Alvarez is a captaincy option in Gameweek 21. I'd rather go for Foden instead. By the way, we do have over 100 likes. Thank you very much to those that did smash the like button. Let's be sure to get this to over 150 now for the first deadline stream of 2024. So if I've answered your question, if you've found something useful, and you know, we've covered a lot of different updates here today about the double Gameweek in 25 for Manchester City and much more, including injury updates on Bowen and Trent. For those of you that don't know, Elise is also expected to miss most of the January games. He could be available for the 30th of January match against Sheffield United, but then you've got Zinchenko as well, who was very close to returning against Liverpool in the FA Cup, but he didn't quite make it, and he should be available against Crystal Palace in Gameweek 21. So everything there has been covered, and I also talked about a lot of different injury scenarios and benching dilemmas, captaincy, debates, and much more. So be sure to like the video and smash the subscribe button. It'd be greatly appreciated. And also check out the links that I've talked about as well. Let's now go back to my FPL team, and some of your questions will be answered in terms of the best captaincy option. You can see I've gone for Saka there, and Palmer is my vice. I could change it, to be fair, but at this moment in time, I think I'm going to stick with Saka. Let's see if that rings true by the end of the deadline. We still have around 34 minutes left until we officially are locked in for Gameweek 21. Goldhead says keep Trent, play Trippier, Borro and Saliba, and sell Salah and Son for Gross and Saka. I do like that, and I've done something very similar myself, so naturally I gravitate towards it. I'd probably do it if you can. Yeah, that would be my recommendation. Start Almiron or sell Son to Foden. I'd sell Son to Foden. Thank you for the super chat, Rania. I appreciate it. Best midfield options this week, bar omissions. So yeah, unfortunately, I did make a free hit video, but it got outdated very quickly because of all these injuries and stuff. So, best midfield 5 for this week, I would say Saka, Palmer, Foden, Gross, and I'd maybe add a second Arsenal midfielder, dare I say. But I think the 5th midfielder slot would go to Jota. So hopefully you caught that. Yep, I think Zinchenko will start. Gross or Garnacho? Gross. Thanks, Dylan, for your advice, but for Alvarez, change for who from -4? I'd go for Tony. I like Joao Pedro, by the way. He's on penalties, he's cheap, a great enabler, fantastic fixtures, but with Tony's double in 25, his consistency from last season, I have a feeling he's going to do pretty well upon his return. Simon says, sell Salah and Son, or better to keep one. Better I check. Yeah, look, there's no right or wrong answer, but I think for most people it makes sense to sell them, both of them. You can make a case for keeping one and selling the other. That's absolutely fine. And with Salah's price in mind and buying back Haaland, I think selling Salah is probably the best solution for a lot of our teams. Tony or Nunez for a 1-week punt? Tony. Son to Richarlison or Lascelles to Estupinian? Lascelles to Estupinian is my preference. Oh no, Abhishek. A colleague from Argentina recently gifted me a Newell's shirt. Please don't ignore my comments from the next stream though. Yeah, with Newell's, yeah, that's the rival team of my Argentinian team. But there you go, it is what it is. It is a bit trendy to have Newell's, shirts as well because of Messi. He's a Newell's supporter, but he did get ditched by them, by the way. Just saying. The Newell's Academy ditched Messi because of his height. Just saying. Ashra says, hi Dylan, what are your thoughts? Hold Salah, remove Son for Foden and Anderson for Jota or Richarlison? I already have Alvarez. Yeah, that's absolutely fine what you're saying there. My preference would be to sell Salah as well. And also, Ashra, think about, can you buy Haaland back in Gameweek 22 whilst keeping Salah on your bench? If you can't, then I would reconsider keeping Salah for the next couple of weeks. Upo Khan says, please rate my team and who to start as our 14 playing players. So yeah, I'd start Areola. Pretty simple there. I'd go for Colwill, Gabriel, and probably Walker. The midfield speaks for itself. I'd start all of them, bar Kudus, who is unavailable. And I'd go for the front three. So yeah, 3-4-3. And I'd bench Kudus. And I'd bench Burn plus Udogi. Yeah, so that is sorted out. In terms of rating your team, it's absolutely fine. You've got most of the key players for this week. Just bear in mind, you would probably want to have Haaland in Gameweek 22 or 23. And the one I'd want to sell would be Cunha, despite his consistency. And I'm not sure how much money you have in the bank, but if you need to make that happen, you'd have to make a downgrade somewhere. And I'm looking at your team, and it would be difficult to do so. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. But I think for this week, you look pretty good. Solid 8.5 out of 10 if I had to give a specific rating. Would you start Taylor and hope he plays Luton, or just start Concert away at Everton? I'd start Taylor, in the hopes that he plays, but I don't think he'll play. Personally, I'd start him just in case. A bit like what I'm doing with Trent and Bowen. I like Palmer as the captain, but top 10k or 59% on Saka's captain. I'm trying to close in. Yeah, I see what you mean there. I see what you mean. Because you're in a unique situation where you're not in the top 10k, but you're very close to it, and you want to close the gap to them, but at the same time, you have an opportunity to go different. So look, that's FPL for you. It's not a simple answer, and sometimes you need luck to fall your way. But yeah, I think Saka and Palmer, there's not much to separate them this week, and if Bowen didn't get injured, he would have been my captain, that's for sure. Yeah, Abhishek, there's no Burnley leaks as far as I'm aware. I'll let you know if I see anything, but Taylor wasn't spotted in any training session, so that is a big concern. Welcome to Stupaki, good to see you as always. Should I sell Trent for Estupinian and keep Salah? Yeah, once again, I keep going back to it. It seems repetitive, but it is very relevant. If you can afford Haaland in Gameweek 22 or 23 whilst keeping Salah, fair enough, go for it. But my reasoning for doing the opposite of what you're saying, I kept Trent and I sold Salah, is because I couldn't afford Haaland back whilst keeping Salah and Son, and it was easier for me to keep Trent for now. It's a difficult one. There's no right or wrong answer, but my personal preference would be to sell Salah right now, because Trent could be available by Game Week 22, while Salah will be back by Game Week 24 at the very earliest. Aranya says pick 3 to start our Saka, Jota, Gross and Foden. I mean, you're going to have bench points, basically. They're all great options this week. The one I'd probably bench from those 4, dare I say, is Jota, but that could easily backfire. Yash Raja says, hey Dylan, Diaby or Douglas Luiz for Salah? Douglas Luiz is better right now. He has been for, well, most of the season. He's very consistent. He's got bonus points and penalties in his favour. I'd go for Douglas Luiz. Joe Hanking says, would you take a -4 or a -8? I have Bowen, Salah, Son, Trent and Lascelles. I'd personally keep Bowen and Trent if possible. So Salah and Son are sells. Lascelles is also a sell. I could have sold him instead of cash, but I wouldn't have been able to afford Haaland for Archer next week. So weigh that up as well. By selling Lascelles and then going to Estupinian, could you then still afford Haaland next week? That also plays a part in whether you should keep him for now or sell him. But for me, Salah and Son are the ones to offload. Start Colwill or transfer him to Estupinian? I'd start Colwill. I think avoiding a hit would be a unique circumstance. A lot of us are taking hits this week. And also, if, for example, you're rolling the transfer, even better. And you could have 2 free transfers next week, and you can bring in a Estupinian by then. So, yeah, I'd start Colwill and avoid a Estupinian for now. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, look, I don't look like Werner, for Christ's sake. Yeah, with Werner as well, going to Tottenham. He could suit them, but his finishing is always going to be an issue. Let's see how he does. It's a bit like Havertz, really, being signed for Arsenal, and you could argue Mount for Man United. You're kind of just thinking, why are these, good managers going for these, Premier League flops, really? But let's wait and see. Is Tony the best forward? Not the best. This week, yeah, you'd say second or third best, but yeah, you know what? Tony does enter the captaincy thinking. When someone asked earlier, what is my captaincy rating? Yeah, when you put it like that, Tony on paper is the best forward in Game Week 21. Overall, no, I'd say he's the 4th best. Yeah, so my new captaincy ranking for those that did ask earlier would be Saka first, Palmer second, Tony in third, then I'd put Foden 4th, and in 5th, I would maybe consider a Brighton attacker. Buy Garnacho or Neto? I prefer Neto. Why Foden, not KDB? Because De Bruyne just came back from a long injury. Foden's been in great form. He's been starting most games this season. He's also much cheaper. There's a lot of different reasons why, and De Bruyne isn't a certainty to start this week or in the weeks to come. Saliba or Doughty? Saliba. Is Bowen completely ruled out? Not completely, but it's very unlikely he will play. Thanks, mate. Fair point. No worries, Abdullah. Welcome, John, as well. Start Colwill or transfer him to Estupinian? Yeah, I covered this question already. I'm not going to go through that again. Would you start Richarlison or Joao Pedro? I'd go for Joao Pedro. Front 3 of Pedro, Watkins and Alvarez. Can get Solanke for Pedro, but want to keep funds to rebuy Salah and Haaland later on. Thoughts? Yeah, that's absolutely fine then. The front 3 is more than enough. And Solanke has poor fixtures, and if there's no double coming very soon, you can avoid him for now. Should I start Bodro if I have Colwill, Gabriel, Konsa and Gomez? I'd start him with a Konsa, but not over the others. Arsenal still can't find a transfer target for January. Well, they are kind of fighting under the FFP rules. They're operating under under a very tight margin, let's say. And yeah, with Arsenal, they have this policy of, they're kind of very specific on the players they want. They made some good signings last season in January. Jorginho and Trossard, for me, have been good signings, but for some reason, they don't play enough now, especially Jorginho. For me, against Liverpool, I went to the game. Jorginho was very good. He was excellent, but because Arsenal lost, you're not really going to, hear that from a lot of fans. So, yeah, let's wait and see what Arsenal do, but I don't think they'll do anything in January. If they do, it would require a lot of sales. I got to keep Bowen or Trent. I'd rather keep Bowen. Play one of Dubravka and Leno this week. Leno. Foden or Palmer as a captain. Palmer. I just gave my top 5 captaincy options and I put Palmer in second. What do you think about Joao Pedro? Yeah, he's up there for the best forwards right now. He's not going to start every game though, in my opinion, and that's what puts him a bit down compared to Tony, Solanke, Watkins, etc. The Samuel Beer says Gross versus Richie versus Foden. Foden first, Gross second, Richarlison third for me. Is it worth taking a -8? I think so, especially if it avoids or prevents you from using the wildcard. Zinchenko to Estupinian for a -4. I'd keep Zinchenko for now. Sell Trent or Dean. I'd sell Luca Dean. Best forward for Gameweek 21, Ivan Toney. Solanke as a captain for this game week. Not a bad shout. I think there are worse players, really. Let me just deal with the spammer, by the way. Oh, thank you, Wei Seng. You beat me to it. That was getting a bit annoying, to say the least. So yeah, look, there are better options in my opinion, but Solanke could be a nice outside shout. I think Bournemouth will score against Liverpool. No, I didn't activate my wildcard. Otherwise, Bowen and Trent wouldn't be there. MT1878 says, hi Dylan, I'm on a wildcard. Watkins or Solanke? Yeah, I'd rather go for Watkins. Yeah, Watkins for me. Better fixtures. The only bad thing is that he's more expensive, and that could be detrimental to buying Salah back in a few weeks' time or buying Haaland. But yeah, Watkins is better. Want to bring Estupinian? Whom should I sell? I'd rather sell Cash. More expensive. He's been useless for a long time now. And yeah, with Pau Torres back, I don't expect him to start. I believe no Chelsea fan will captain Palmer. We have no striker, even in Cuckoo. I mean, you say that, but there will be Chelsea fans out there, especially deluded ones, who will still think Chelsea will win, very comprehensively, and they'll captain Palmer. Look, I still think Chelsea should win the game. Yeah, Palmer is a good captaincy option. Maybe not as good with all these injuries you have. Let's wait and see, though, because Arsenal themselves aren't, well, they haven't been good for a long time now. Sahopus' team, 2 free transfers. I'm panicking right now. I think I've covered this. I'm not sure. But yeah, Salah and Hwang Yi-chan I'd sell. And I would go to Foden and... yeah, Foden and Gross, for example. I'd do something like that. And you can always do Lamptey to Estupinian very soon as well. It's just a matter of timing when you want to make the moves. But yeah, I'd use 2 free transfers and improve the team there. Arsenal trying to play by FPL rules. Meanwhile, City and Chelsea take the piss and no sanctions. How can they afford 100 million forwards if they have to sell Conor Gallagher, one of the better players? I think FFP in general is quite inconsistent because they seem to be harsh on Everton. I mean, it's technically different because the financial rules for the Premier League is different to FFP throughout Europe. But yeah, you've also got Nottingham Forest potentially being punished soon. And what's the other club? Nottingham Forest. I saw something about Spurs and a dodgy transfer they made back in 2007. But it seems like they're always kind of putting the microscope on the so-called smaller clubs, whilst City and Chelsea have been able to just go, bypass everything quite easily. Another example is Newcastle, who now might need to sell Bruno Guimaraes or an Isak in order to comply with FFP rules. So it is a bit of a fuss. How comes you're starting Trent? Just in the odd chance that he starts, really, which I very much doubt. I think it's close to impossible, but I'm just putting him in case. Sell Trent or wait. I'd keep him if possible. Cash sucks, pin him. Yeah, I agree. Jota or Diaz? Jota. Sonindra says, Dylan, who would you buy between Gross, Jota, Garnacho? Well, you probably can see the answer on screen. I'd go for Gross. And which City defender would you buy other than Walker? Probably Ruben Diaz. It's kind of a difficult one because it varies week on week. Akanji seemed very nailed on earlier in the season, and now it's not the same. Thank you, John Paul. Happy New Year, Dylan. Charlie Taylor and Son to Estupinian and Foden for a -4. Yes and yes. I'd do both transfers. Charlie Taylor could start, by the way, but I haven't seen him in any training picture this week. He wasn't in training on Wednesday. Company gave nothing away in yesterday's press conference, so that is a major concern. Happy New Year to you as well, John Paul. I'd make both transfers. The F Frostbite says, just joined, Rashford worth the punt? Not for me. Not really, Pavle. I mean, it's not like I hate him. If anything, I'd hate Watkins more, FPL-wise, but I don't really hate Cash. As an FPL option, yeah, he's just terrible. That's pretty much it. I'm saying it as it is. We all know that. Bring in the Stupinian for Lascelles or Trent for Lascelles. If that doesn't impact your ability to buy Haaland back, definitely Lascelles out. Son replacement, I have Palmer, Saka, Richarlison, Foden. Why not transfer Bowen out for someone more nailed on to play? Well, because I've got Bodro and Archer to come off the bench, and also Bowen should be back by Gameweek 22. So I've already made a -4 hit to get Gross, Foden, to sell the likes of Salah and Son. So you're looking at Salah and Son being unavailable for 3 to 4 weeks minimum, whilst Bowen will probably be out for 1. So that's why. Salah to Jota or Foden. Foden. Idol says, Dylan, thoughts on my transfers? Son and Salah to Palmer and Foden for free, and Gay to Stupinian for a -4. Yeah, great transfers. I have nothing really against it. I've done something similar myself, and I think it's good. We do have less than 20 minutes left until the deadline, so be sure to lock in your teams. Yeah, I agree to Stupaki, but let's not get into that again. I think the last stream of 2023, we had a similar discussion. I'm starting Bowen with Gordon first on my bench. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I don't think Bowen will play, but you've got that cover just in case. Bodra or Gusto? This week I'd go for Gusto. Julian Pulicino says, play a wild card if I took a -8 to fill the gaps in my team, but still have Bowen in my team. I'd just stick with a -8 and have Bowen in your team. If you've got decent cover, even if it's just an Archer or something like that, that's fine. Just stick with a -8. Would you start Bowen and bench Gordon? Yes, I would. But as I just mentioned, I don't expect them to play. It's just something in the odd chance, something you can gain over those that just bench Bowen or sell him. Richie, Jota, or JP? I'm guessing that's Joao Pedro. This week, Joao Pedro is my favourite. Richarlison's my favourite purchase overall. So let me make it clear. So for this week, Joao Pedro is the best. I think if I'm buying one for the next 3-4, I'm buying Richarlison. Funny how Bayern really buy Dyer to strengthen their squad. Tuchel is crazy. Yeah, Dyer was good at one point at Tottenham, it's worth mentioning, when he first joined. Then he got like an injury or some illness around 2018, 2019, and that's where the downfall started. But yeah, surprising for him to go to Bayern. I think we all are in agreement of that. I already have Joao Pedro, so that rules out Gross. Fair enough, that's absolutely fine. That makes sense, and I also would think similarly if I had Joao Pedro. Start Solanke or KDB? Solanke. Rex Normad says, Taylor or Burn or sell one for a -4? Well, I'd start Taylor. As I mentioned a few times in the stream, though, I don't think he'll play. Turner or Leno for this week? Tricky. Very tricky indeed. And by the way, I'm going to go through my predictions very soon. I'd play Turner. I think I'd play Turner. Not ideal. I'd probably go for that. So yeah, we're close to 150 likes. Let's be sure to hit it in the next few minutes. And also, by the end of the stream, maybe to get to 200 likes. It might seem like a tall ask, but we can definitely do that. We're around 58 away from 200 likes, and we still have over 150 people watching. So thank you for all the support. I do genuinely appreciate it. And as I mentioned earlier in the stream, a huge shout out goes to all channel members and patrons. Start Dubravka or Turner? Turner. I mean, why shouldn't you hit Cash? Yeah, that's a great question. You never know, Dylan. Yeah, Luca Dean was another one who's been an FPL troll for me. I've never gotten a return from him. Yeah, Cash and Dean are pretty much in the same books for me. They're both terrible. I think this season Dean has been better, though. Or at least a bit less frustrating. Why is everyone starting Trent? Like I mentioned, it's just in the off chance that he plays. I generally don't think he will. I've got Bodro and Archer to come off the bench. Hi Dylan, thoughts on Doku? Should start this week if Grealish is still ill and feeling the effects this weekend, but I don't like Doku as an FPL option, even in double gaming 25, unless Grealish gets injured and the pathway for the left winger spot opens up for Doku. Should I take a hit to take out Bowen if I can't fill 11? I'd probably just keep him. Now, selling Bowen to a Saka, Palmer, or Foden for a -4 is worth it. It really is this week, but you might want Bowen back very soon. To be fair, Liverpool play Bournemouth in the 21st of January, so there's still 9 days. You never know, Trent may be fit enough. Yeah, and to name some examples, you know, Bentancur was supposed to be back in February, and he's already playing matches since a few weeks ago. There are so many examples of players returning earlier than expected. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, and that's why I've got him in my starting 11. Name 3 defenders for this week. Just like my best free hit team video, Estupinian, Saliba, and I think the third one would be Gusto. Pau to Estupinian for a -4, says Chenny Pau. No, so Chenny. Chenny says Pau to Estupinian for a -4. Already have Saliba, Border, and Zinchenko. No, because I think Zinchenko will be available, and you can just start Saliba and Border as well. Wildcard up front, to your opinion. So 2 forwards, right? Watkins and still Solanke for me. The alternatives will be João Pedro and Tony. So, yeah, I'm probably sticking with Solanke and Watkins. Yeah, I think Leno's okay keep, but Fulham are just such an iffy team, and Leno, he can return in the most difficult games and then blank against, I don't know, Luton Town at home. Bench Sarabia or Archer? I would bench Archer. What are your thoughts on Sarabia? Could be a decent punt, but really when I'm looking at Wolves, it's a difficult one, isn't it? It really is. With Wolves, you'd rather go for Neto in the midfield or Cunha up front. Garnacho or Pau Torres? Probably Garnacho. Why Saka captain, not Palmer? We've covered this a few times, so just to kind of, you know, maybe briefly recap. Saka plays deep into the week. Arsenal have a few weeks off in Dubai. They can have plenty of time to reset and recharge. Saka got 2 goals and an assist in the last meeting against Crystal Palace at home, and I'm expecting Arsenal to bounce back and deliver. Saka's underlying numbers are still quite good, you know, over 50 chances created this season, and he's been a bit unlucky in certain games, and I also think this break could really do him good, and I expect Arsenal to respond very well against Palace. Yeah, Odegaard as a captain, it's not a bad shout. I think there are better options. Now, you could argue, well, if Saka's the captaincy option, why isn't Odegaard? He is a captaincy option, but I just think Odegaard hasn't been as consistent as Saka in FPL this season. Kat says, on lunch hour now, did I miss anything in the stream? Kidding, I had it in another tab the whole time, thank you. Do I lose both of my free transfers by doing the wild card or just one of them? Well, after playing the wild card, you'll always have 1 free transfer in the following week. So if you have 2 free transfers, you will technically lose that second transfer. Yes, you won't be able to store that and have 2 free transfers in Gameweek 22. But yeah, in terms of anything, you know, worth mentioning, double game week there for Man City in Gameweek 25, facing Brentford and Chelsea at home. Captain Tony, I can think of worse. Probably my top 5 this week quite easily. He's 3rd in my ranking. So yeah, it's quite decent. Thoughts on Tony? I think he starts, yes. Could you say definitely? Maybe not, but I would expect him to, with Wissa off to AFCON and all these other problems Brentford have up front, and they need a desperate reaction, you know, otherwise they could find themselves right in the thick of it in terms of a relegation battle. My rank is 47k. Difficult one because Saka is owned by more people, and amongst all FPL managers, he'll be more popularly captained. But in terms of engaged managers and those that play FPL regularly, that, you know, I don't know, on the YouTube scene or Twitter scene, most people there, I think, would captain Palmer. So it's quite a difficult one. I think maybe Saka is the so-called shield for you. Then again, though, I don't have the exact stats and effective ownership to give you a definitive answer. Venom says bench Gross or Gusto. Probably Gusto. I'm not a big fan of that, though. Play Share or Baldock? Probably Baldock, but I'm not expecting anything from either. Could I also sell Gordon so that I can bring in Richarlison, Gross and Foden, but it'd be a -12 in my other moves? I just keep Zinchenko and stay with a -8. I think Zinchenko will be available. That's my personal opinion. Start Lascelles or -4 for Estupinian. -4 for Estupinian. I don't think Lascelles plays, and if he does start, probably 1 point, 2 points at best. Pan says Ferguson or Pedro from -4. Pedro. Richarlison or Jota says Adnan. Richarlison. I think Jota will do better this week, but to put into context, if I'm buying one right now, I'm looking at the next 3 or 4, and I would prefer Richarlison. Adnan Ahmed says, will Solanke and Archer start this week? Solanke, definitely. Archer, there is the odd chance he doesn't, but I think he will. Why is no one considering Rashford? Because he's been inconsistent. So inconsistent this season. Man United have been so hit and miss, and you can't rely on them right now. Is Stupinian or Gross or both from -4? I don't know who you're selling. That also plays a big part. And if you don't sell a particular asset, who do you have coming off the bench? All of that plays a big factor into whether you should do one move or not. If I had to pick one for a -4, it'd be Gross. Who's the captain, Palmer, Foden, or Tony? Those lot, it would be Palmer. Tony would tempt me, and he'd be third, and Foden is fourth, with Saka being first on my list. Foden or Jota? Foden for sure. Sahil says, okay, I did Salah to Hwang Chan Lamptey to Stupinian, Gross and Foden. Absolutely fine. I did similar moves this week. Actually, I made the exact same transfers in as you, and I think it looks pretty good. Genius Gamer says, currently playing Taylor Son to Foden -4 worth it? Yes, I think it is worth it. Son, Salah to Foden, Richarlison? Yes, it's definitely good. A lot of managers are doing it for a reason. Changes confirmed: Areola, Saliba, Borro, Trippier, Stupinian, Saka, Palmer, Douglas Luiz, Foden, Watkins, Solanke, Captain Saka, Vice Palmer. Good luck, Goldhead, great rank, and I hope you can push on there. Jumping on the Tony hype train, wish me luck. I do. Tony could definitely be a great option over the next couple. I like it a lot, so good luck, mate. Play Archer or take a hit for Joao Pedro, says Alfred69. I'd probably play Archer, and the reason why is because, for a lot of people anyway, you'd want to have that forward slot ready for Haaland. Tricky though, because you might not be looking at a move like that, and in that case, Joao Pedro for a -4 is absolutely fine. Thank you, Haribo, for the super chat. Genuinely appreciate it as always. Hi Dylan, would you play Bernardo against Newcastle or Solanke against Liverpool? I need to bench one. Thanks and good luck. I'd go for Solanke, just a more consistent FPL option. The fixture is tougher on paper. And look, Bernardo Silva is a quality player, and he might bring one of these massive hauls into a game like this. You never know, but I'd rather go for Solanke out of the two. That is what I'd go for personally. Captain Rashford. Yeah, look, you might be onto something there. You know, with the way Spurs play, it could be perfect for Rashford and the way Ten Hag wants to set up. It's just difficult to captain a player, though, that's been so inconsistent and devoid of confidence, and Man United have been so off it this season. They're so hard to predict. They might beat an Aston Villa, an informed Aston Villa at that, and then lose to, I don't know, Bournemouth at home. Bowen to Gordon from -4? No. Captain Darwin, it's a good outside shout, a nice differential. I think from that Liverpool game, Darwin will be up there. Just not for me. It's a bit similar to Richarlison when people ask, should I captain Richarlison? I don't trust the player, and I don't like captaining a player I don't trust. You might argue, well, you're captaining Saka. Well, I do trust him historically. Maybe not in recent weeks, but it's kind of an earned thing, the captaincy. And I don't know, with Darwin, he's such a frustrating player. You know, he could easily score a brace and give you 13 points, but he could also miss 3-4 big chances and give you 1 point. You know, that's how frustrating he can be. Not for me, but if you're feeling it, back your gut always. Okay, says Palmer, Saka, or Bowen captain. It's Saka or Palmer for me. Bowen isn't in the consideration. I don't think he'll play. I'm personally going for Saka, so that is my answer. Salah and Son to Richarlison and Palmer for a -8, says Adnan. Yeah, absolutely fine. Thanks a lot, mate. No worries, Alfred69. Cash or Borro for this game week? Borro. Order your best captaincy picks. I've done it already. Saka, Palmer, Tony, Richarlison, Foden fourth, and in fifth, I'd probably go for a Brighton attacker like Joao Pedro or Gross. So yeah, that is my top 5. I might be missing someone there, but yeah, the top 4 is definitely set in stone. Alvarez or Joao Pedro for a -4? Joao Pedro. Ken back says, have Gabriel and Saliba. No, I wouldn't transfer one of them out for a -4. Eventually, yes, I'd sell one of them to a Stupinian, but not for a -4 this week. Ali, Ale, number 11, says, who would you start between Gay and Lascelles? Gay. Captain Rashford is beyond me. Look, I can understand the, maybe not the philosophy, how do we put this? In terms of the play styles, it could favour Rashford, but I can't bring myself to captain Rashford or recommend it in general. Jota or Foden? Foden. Joao Garota says, if my first sub for Bowen is Archer, should I do a -4 for Archer to Tony? I can think of worse. I personally wouldn't. I could do something similar and take a -8 hit overall by doing the same move, but I also want Haaland next week. And yeah, you can always argue, well, you know, Tony in 1 week could easily make that pay off, but he is coming back from a long period of inactivity. Overall, it's a good transfer. I'm not against it. But if you are looking to buy Haaland back next week, it might be a bit counterproductive. Salah, Pau to Stupinian, Jota, Foden. Yeah, and I'd go for Foden, as I've mentioned all day long. Foden for me is one of the top Salah or Son replacements. I mean, Stenny, Salah and Son have been projected to drop in price for a few days now, and they still keep their price. A bit similar to Haaland a couple of weeks ago. Watkins captain. Oh yeah, truth. Watkins. How can I forget this guy? Yeah, Watkins is my top 5. Thank you for that. So yeah, just my definitive list, I think, would be Saka, Palmer. I'd probably put Watkins third just for his consistency. Tony fourth, and in fifth, I would go for Foden. That's my top 5 captaincy options. Yeah, I forgot about him, to be honest, for a minute. I forgot about him. He is a good captaincy option. I personally think he'll get a goal, and be limited to 6-9 points, which would be quite good this week, but I do think Saka and Palmer have a higher ceiling. Durgish says Trent or Mikalenko out for Stupinian. I'd rather sell Mikalenko. How would you bring back Salah and Haaland? Very easy with Haaland. I just do Archer to Haaland and do it that way. With Salah, it would require selling the likes of Bowen and Saka, so maybe downgrading Bowen to Douglas Luiz and then upgrading Saka to Salah. If I'm still a bit short, it could involve either downgrading Solanke or Trent. No worries, A10. Start Walker or Trippier. I'd rather start Walker. Play Trippier or Gordon and Turner or Leno. Tricky one. I'd play Leno, actually, and I'd also go for Gordon. Is Foden still a good option? Yeah, he still is. He still is. I think KDB is a bigger threat to Alvarez and not Foden. Will Adebayo score against Burnley? I'd say no. He has been in good goal-scoring form, though, since the beginning of December. Foden captain, he's in my top 5. I'm not going to go for him myself, but he is a decent option. 5 minutes left, yes. Now 3 or 2.5. Tasby says Saliba, Stupinian, Border, Gusto, Doughty, start any 3. Saliba, Estupinian, and Gusto. Who to put first on the bench, Archer or Mikalenko? I would put Mikalenko first on the bench. Just about. Dubravka or Pickford for goalkeeper? I would go for Pickford. Play Trippier or Gordon. We've covered that, mate. Hopefully you got it. Would be 0.1 million off if I get Estupinian and Foden, thinking for Haaland next week. In that case, you might want to consider Gross instead of Phil Foden. Salah out for Gross or Saka? I'd go for Saka still. Just about. Tony or Watkins? Watkins overall, so that's my answer. And I did put him just above in the captaincy ranking. My team says the fantasy football lad looks good. I did Trent to Stupinian, good move. Yes it is. And you've got Salah still, ready and primed for Gameweek 25 if they got the double. Hayden and FPL hasn't been good for the past few weeks. Fell from 6th to 11th in my league and bought in Bowen this game week. Yeah, that's a bit of bad luck. And look, with the early transfers, it can always happen, especially with 2 or 3 weeks in between game week deadlines. So always be careful with it. Don't make early transfer game week 22. And look, I think maybe some good returns early in the week could definitely change your mood and your perception of it. But yeah, just maybe it's a good thing that we've had a break and we've been able to maybe reset a little bit. Hopefully Arsenal do the same. But yeah, don't worry about it too much, and hopefully you start enjoying the game again very soon. Why is Trent in your team? I've covered this already. Don't think about it too much. The reason why Bowen and Trent are in my team is simply in the odd chance they do play. I don't think Trent will. Bowen is a bit more likely, but I also think he won't either. And I've got Borderot and Archer ready off the bench just in case. So I'm not that bothered, really. Hinselwood, Pedro, Estupinian and Foden in for a -8. Is that João Pedro, or I'm just wondering who? But either way, good transfers. Not completely sold on Hinselwood, despite his good returns recently. Mabama or Cash? Probably Mabama. How many hits can I take before it gets too excessive? I'd say a -16 is the furthest I'd go this week. A -12 I'd be prepared to do to save the wild card in Game Week 21, but not a -16 or above. Definitely not above. I have like 6 transfers I'm trying to make before double Game Week 25. Yeah, it's not ideal. Look, when you spread around a -12 hit across multiple weeks, that's absolutely fine, you could say. But a -12 in 1 week and then a possibly of a -8 next week, that's where things could get a bit rough. Thank you, Sudindra. Good luck to you as well. Good luck, Dylan. Decided to bring in Tony, Foden, and Stupinian for Taylor, Salah, Muniz for a -8. Captain Tony too. Hope it goes well. Good luck, Sudindra. I wish you the best. Adil says started Trent and Bowen. Bench, order, Gordon, and Borro. Yeah, I've done the same in terms of Trent and Bowen. Good luck there, mate. And you've got good options off the bench just in case. We are close indeed, Rex. Mauro says, done for the game week. Areola over Dibu, Borro, Walker and Estupinian, Martinelli, Palmer, captain, Douglas Luiz and Richarlison, Solanke, Watkins and Alvarez. Wish me luck. Good luck for you and thank you for all the insights. Cheers. Thank you, Mauro. And likewise, I wish you the best. Your team looks pretty good for this week and let's see how it all pans out. Trent is a sell for me since he's injured. Also, because of upcoming fixtures aren't good, could bring him back in a wild card. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Everyone has a different plan and different scenarios. For me personally, I can keep Trent and sell Salah to afford Erling Haaland, but I can't do it the other way around. I can't field an entire 11, possibly with all the yellow flags. I might only have 9 or 10 playing. Yeah, if I have 11 playing, it won't be the best 11 you'll see, with maybe an Archer starting, but it is what it is. When I'm using the wild card, probably later in the season, I'm looking to save it. I took a -4 hit this week. Good thing that I had 2 free transfers in Game Week 21. But for those that have 2 free transfers in Game Week 22, you're in a good position. I have to say that. We are all locked in indeed. Sahil says, I changed my captain to Foden last minute. Good luck. Oh no, I'm not trying to go too far on the hits. Yeah, fair enough. But if you're talking about spreading them around multiple weeks, it's not that bad to take a -12. I'm going to wildcard off the double game week. Fair enough. Game week 30 wildcard will be a very popular strategy unless things go in a different direction based on the FA Cup quarterfinals and the blanks we get into Game Week 29, the blanks we also get in Game Week 26. Did Gross for Salah instead of Foden. Wow, interesting. I got both of them in. I wish you the best there, Junior. A Man City fan not going for Foden. Interesting. Yeah, JP for Brighton. Fair enough. And that's absolutely fine. I like João Pedro right now. Thoughts on Arsenal in this transfer market? I don't think Arsenal will sign anybody unless they're absolutely convinced, one, that they can get the deal done because of FFP. They need to get some sales done in order to make the funds available. And also, if they think it's the right guy. But, yeah, I personally wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal sign nobody. And I don't think they'll get a striker. I'm captaining Timo Werner. Good luck, official Kyle. I think I saw your comment just before starting the stream. So good luck, mate. So he also started Trent, bench, Zinchenko, Archer, cash in order. Yeah, that's pretty much how I would have done it. If Trent misses out, Zinchenko should play and, start, maybe get a clean sheet. Will Benzema join Arsenal? Definitely not. I don't see that happening. I'll do a masterclass with Timo, says official Kyle. Well, if that happens, then congratulations, but I don't know about that. Captain Odegaard and played Pickford over Dubravka, says Rex. Yeah, Rex. Yeah, I mean, I like it. Hopefully Odegaard does really well for you. And good luck with that Pickford move. I think that's the right call anyway. No chance Benzema joins Arsenal. Yeah, I agree. Sorry, Rehan. I try my best. Sometimes things get caught up. And look, I just read comments in the order I get them up. And yeah, I apologize for it, but I try my best. Adimac83 says, thanks for the insight and content you put out. Thank you very much. Yeah, wait a second. I see what you're doing there. Calma. In which game will you bring back Salah? Well, if they have a double game week in 25, that's probably when I'm looking to bring him back. It also depends when Egypt are knocked out. If they're knocked out by the group stages or the quarterfinals, you could see Salah available in game week 24 against Burnley. It'll be very difficult to go without him for that fixture, as well as game week 25 and a potential double. But if they also blank in game week 26, there's some arguments to free hit in game week 25, buy Salah back in there, and not go with him in your normal team up until game week 30. So it's not set in stone, let's put it that way. I made a sub at exactly 7:15 and I saved it and then the site reloaded. Hopefully it works right. Well, if it was at exactly 7:15, well, in my case 6:15, then it wouldn't have counted. You need to do it before the deadline. I rolled this cooker. Nice stuff. You think game week 22 is good to wildcard? Well, it's better to wildcard than now because you'll have more information. You'll know which teams will reach the Carabao Cup final, for one. You also have a better idea of which teams will blank in game week 29 because of the FA Cup. And that will give you a better idea of which transfers to make when you'll have doubles and blanks. Liverpool could have a double in game week 25 and find that out. So, yeah, wildcard in 22 isn't that bad. I'm looking to use it later in the season, though. I don't know. I think I'll do my wildcard when City have a double game week, says Sahil. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, yeah, game week 25 is when they wildcard. Just bear in mind, you might wildcard into a team and look, you might bring in Palmer, let's say triple Liverpool or double Liverpool and go for Spurs players, but they might also blank in game week 26. So yeah, let's just wait and see. But it's worth, I like these different strategies and talking about different ways of approaching it. Just be careful because things could still change. Didn't do a Stupinian in for Pau Torres for a -4. Hopefully next week I'll do it if Haaland is back. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. It's not ideal to not be able to bring in a Stupinian, I guess, but it would have been for a -4 hit. Sorry, and Pau Torres, yeah, with Pau Torres, he should be available. Well, he is available and he should start in Gameweek 21. I would expect him to, certainly. I went for a Chilwell punt, says Aero. Yeah, I mean, he's back. I mean, with Chilwell, he looked pretty good in the first couple of weeks, FPL-wise, but as usual, the usual trolling from him and Reece James. He just can't stay fit. So Hill says, imagine Trent plays and blanks while Zinchenko hauls with a clean sheet. I mean, I wouldn't rule that out 100%, but yeah, I don't think Trent will play. The kits are, just type in on Google FPL away kits and you can just add it to your browser. It's a Chrome extension. Egypt going deep, I'm afraid. I wouldn't mind that at all. Not just for FPL reasons, but also for Liverpool struggling without him. But yeah, they can still do well without him. Thoughts on Dragusin? I haven't seen him much, so I can't really comment. All I've seen is that his agent has already been kind of belittling Spurs and talking about going to Real Madrid in a few years, and that he's surprised that Dragusin picked Spurs over Bayern Munich. So yeah, Spurs are catching a lot of shots already by their new signing. Rex says, bring in Haaland and Salah and Trent, choose two. Well, probably Haaland and Salah. Trent is still a great option, though. Great value for money. And if you really think about it, at his price and below, at any position, there's not many that really come close to him. Maybe Solanke, Saka at a similar price, Jared Bowen, but there's not many. Good luck. Let's hope for a Palmer hat-trick. No, not for me, since I didn't captain him. But good luck to you. Which player for Brighton for the long term is Stupinian and Gross, the two that I bought in this week. It's really annoying me that Salah at 43.8% owned after Game Week 11 and costing 12.9. Yesterday at 37 owned and costing 13.2. Yeah, so I get what you're saying. It's not necessarily like that, you know, because he's got low ownership now, he should be cheaper, because he did get a lot of purchases in the meantime. The problem is, you know, he's gone from like, what, 50, 60% ownership to what you're saying now, 37% ownership. He should have gone down by more than 0.1. He should have been down to 13 million or 12.9. But yeah, it's not completely transparent the way they do pricing, and it's not consistent, really. Or the only consistent thing is that these mega options like Haaland and Salah are able to preserve their price so long, and it's definitely manipulated. Twan says, hi Dylan, do you think Arsenal win the Premier League this season? It's 4 years already since Arteta's taken over, and with that, a lot of money, he must get Premier League or out. I don't think Arsenal win the league this season. I thought, look, a week or two is a long time in football, and Arsenal were top of the league at Christmas. They were looking good despite not really reaching their best levels. I think, you know, up until Christmas, they probably deserved to win most games, and they should have had more points as well. And look, it's difficult to say because, yes, Arteta spent a lot of money, but at the same time, look at where Arsenal were when he took over. He's done a great job. Now, what I don't like is when people say, oh, you can't criticize Arteta. You can, because he does make some mistakes, and some of them are repeated. So, for example, the late substitutions. You know, what I like in a manager is being proactive and, you know, anticipating situations rather than reacting to it. And Arteta sometimes seems like a very reactive manager with his substitutions, and that's where I can blame him. Against Liverpool, he set the team up very well. Arsenal should have been 2 or 3-0 up at half-time. They didn't take their chances. But then you get to the second half, Liverpool start to gain a bit of control, you know, start to generate more chances, look more dangerous. And that's where Arteta needed to make changes, and he didn't. And that's where the brunt of the blame and the criticism goes towards him for being knocked out of the FA Cup. But look, I don't want him out personally. I still think he's one of the best managers in the league, but there's still a lot he could definitely improve on. And what is my biggest concern is Arsenal going on winless streaks every single year. I talked about this on Twitter. So if you cast your mind back to when he nearly got sacked, 1 win in 10, which came against Man United at Old Trafford, but 1 win in 10, Arsenal sat 16th. Then on Boxing Day, you know, things started to change. They went on a good run. Smith Rowe came into the team and stuff like that. But then the following season, when Arsenal finished 5th, you know, you had multiple winless streaks. The first 3 games of the season, they lost to Brentford, they lost to Man City, got battered, and they lost to Chelsea, bottom of the league after 3 games. Then they were quite consistent up until one of the international breaks, the early ones of 2021. Then they got battered by Palace 3-0, lost to Southampton 1-0, and Arsenal had chances to win that game, but they looked pretty poor in the grand scheme of things. Then, once again, kind of recovered from that, but they had another winless streak, lost to Spurs 3-0 and lost to Newcastle 1 year. Title race. They were amazing for the first half of the season. They were very good. They were the best team in England for 30 game weeks, but it's a 38 game week season. And Arsenal, what did they do in February? Already some signs of, the cracks starting to appear. They lost to Man City in the FA Cup, then they lost to Everton, then they drew to Brentford, and then they lost to Man City in the Premier League. So that's a 4-game winless streak where Arsenal were out of the FA Cup, their competition, and they also started to, lose a bit of confidence and hope in the league, and also a massive 6-pointer against Man City where they lost. Then they once again recover. I think they win 7 games in a row, but then you've got the Liverpool game 2-0 up, and then you fumble that. West Ham, you do the same thing. That is unforgivable. Liverpool, fair enough, it's Anfield. They were really on it. Something flicked in them and they found a formula that served them well up until this season. But to be 2-0 up against West Ham, who were really struggling at the time, they were, close to relegation, 2-0 up in 10 minutes, and then to draw 2-2, that's unforgivable. Then you're 3-1 down to Southampton, including 1-0 down in the first minute. Yeah, after that, you just know they're not going to win the league. And then after that, they lost 4-1 to Man City. That's another 4-game winless streak. They did something similar late in the season, losing 3-0 to Brighton and losing to Forest 1-0. So my point is, Arsenal and Arteta, a theme under him, a trend, is that they go on multiple winless streaks every single season. And you've seen it this year again, losing to Newcastle. I think they lost to West Ham in the Carabao Cup, and they also drew to Chelsea all within a week or so. And now you've got this streak of 1 win in 7. You can't keep going on these runs. Man City had one in December, but that was like the only streak they've had of that nature under Pep Guardiola. So yeah, look, with Arteta, I still think he's the right man, but there are some things he does wrong, and I really want him to rectify things and to learn from his mistakes. And let's see if he does. If he can, I think he could take Arsenal to the next step and win a Premier League, but not this season. Dylan, my mate, triple captain Doughty tonight. Is he crazy? Is he a Luton fan? Is he both? Fair enough. Well, good luck, mate. Good luck. Bojan says, sold Salah and Hwang for Foden and Gross. Had to go -4 to fill the 11. Yeah, I like those moves, to be fair. And overall, I think it is justified with Salah and Hwang missing out for a couple of weeks at least. Rehan says, this is how Gameweek 21 looks. Looks very good, in my opinion. I don't think there's much to really criticise. Yeah, with Trent, that's the only problem, where Trent will likely not play. Then you've got Taylor also likely to miss out. So Dan Burn against Man City, not ideal, but that's the only weak link really if Trent and Taylor miss out. Bojan says, and to leave money for Haaland. Absolutely understandable. I've done something similar and I think there are good transfers. EY says, accidentally transferred in Richarlison instead of Gross. Not necessarily. I just let it play out now. Richarlison's still a good pick, and it could be a blessing in disguise for you, to be quite honest. So playing down the middle, 12 big chances, including 6 in the last 6 game weeks, I think it is. So yeah, it's not ideal, and I always have that kind of phobia, if I can call it that, where did I buy the right player? Because sometimes I do it without thinking, and I'm like, wait, I should have concentrated. But yeah, don't worry about it. It's still not a bad transfer at the very least. Dawson Dyer to Bayern Munich, caught us all by surprise. I don't know what Tuchel's cooking, but let's see. Do you think Saka is already at Sterling level or still room to improve? They're completely different players. Sterling was electric at Man City, especially in the 18-19 season. He had similar goals and assists to Messi and Kane and all these top forwards and strikers. Look, Saka for me is more of a creator. I think his decision-making is better than Sterling's ever was. But Sterling has that natural goal-scoring instinct, getting into those positions that maybe Saka doesn't have. They're different players. Do I think Saka's reached that level, peak Sterling yet? No. But they're also completely different profiles. And yeah, I think Saka, look, you could argue he's peaked already, but there's still a long way to go in his career, and let's wait and see. He's just going for a rough patch, and yeah, I think very soon we'll start talking about how good Saka is again. With Sterling, I have to say, people do underappreciate how good Sterling was back in the day. But when people say Sterling's better than Perez and stuff, come off it. This has been the season of -4 hits, yeah? It's actually odd because up until recently, this is probably the least amount of hits I've taken in any season. It's only recently that I've started to be more aggressive and it's paid off for me. Gold that says Rightio bought in Estupinian and Saka with the rest of the team looking relatively template. Even a small green would be welcome. Rank 32k. Yeah, no, a small green arrow at your rank, I would not be complaining, mate. When will you use the triple captain? Potentially in Game Week 25 on Haaland, if he's available. He should be. And an alternative pick would be Salah, if Liverpool reach the Carabao Cup final and Luton Town, that fixture in Game Week 26, moves to 25, thus forming a double. So, let's see. Bro started a speech, yeah. I did go for your question, mate. I did go for your question. And also, look, the deadline's gone now, so we've got time to break some questions or comments down in more detail. What else do we have? Salah will be 30% or less tonight, falling from 55%. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what his ownership is, but it will be quite low. Dylan, are we sleeping on Isak? Well, Isak recently was in my top 5 for the best forwards to buy. Yeah, he's probably 5th or 6th on my list. I do prefer Joao Pedro, Tony, Solanke, Watkins, and Haaland when he's available. But yeah, Isak is up there. It's just, yeah, the fixtures are still poor for the next two anyway. Once that clears up, you could definitely see Isak becoming popular. And Wilson's always a factor. You know, he's kind of in and out of the team with injury, and that's always frustrating. Would you captain De Bruyne if you had him? No. No, I wouldn't, because De Bruyne still might not even start the game. He said it himself last week, and he's been managed very extensively in the last year or so. I don't think Arsenal on the level of consistency as City and Liverpool. The thing is, though, look, Arsenal were top very recently. I get what you're saying. Obviously, up until this point of the season, you know, have Liverpool, City... Well, City have gone on a similar run of 1 in 6 wins, but have Liverpool done that? No. I'm not so sure, though, because it's funny how football changes so quickly. You know, when Liverpool drew to Man United and Arsenal back-to-back at home, you know, people are saying, oh, Arsenal, you know, are the favourites for the league now, and now they're suddenly 3rd or 4th favourites. Yeah, I think, generally speaking, you're right. Liverpool and City are more consistent, but at the same time, I don't know. I still think City will go on a run at the end and they'll probably win it. They're my favourites, and unless they fall off dramatically, it's their title to lose. My frustration as an Arsenal fan is that it should be Arsenal, you know, really leading the charge and making a stamp on it and building upon last season to, you know, go that step further and win the league, which they haven't done in 20 years. So let's wait and see. There's a lot of football to be played. I don't think Arsenal win the league. I think it'll be City first, Liverpool second, Arsenal third. I hope I'm wrong and Arsenal do it, but yeah, it's very hard to envision. Maybe. Pressure's one thing. The mentality in general, I think, because Arsenal have created a lot of chances against the likes of West Ham and Liverpool. They should have won both games, but they don't take them. Yeah, I agree. That's a game where you have no complaints. You know, you can't even say anything external or whatever. Arsenal were just poor. Fulham played better. They deserve to win, but it's so frustrating to lose to a team like that, which, no offense, but Fulham are 14th. You know, a title contender shouldn't be dropping 5 points to Fulham, you know, with a draw at home, especially against 10 men Fulham after making a comeback and then doing that away from home after being 1-0 up after 4 minutes. So here's what it is. Captain Jota says FPL Boo Boo. Good luck, mate. I wish you the best there. Oggy. Oink, oink, oink. I need to stop saying that. After my early transfer mistake, Bowen got injured, so took my medicine and used the second free transfer in KDB. Fingers crossed for this transfer. Possible high risk, do you think, Dylan, chasing top 100? I wonder what your rank is right now, but that is a fantastic aim. And with KDB, I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan because of the minutes. He's a concern to even start in Game Week 21, and even if he does start, will he start in Game Week 22 and 23? Start both games in the double? I'm not so sure, but I hope it works out for you. And overall, yeah, with Bowen, it's a bit frustrating. I've seen some people do that, buy Bowen and then sell him at the same time. But yeah, with Bowen, should be available in Game Week 22. Let's see how it all pans out. I wish you the best. I'm just not so sure about KDB, though, but I could be wrong. Terrific text says, hi, Dylan. Sold Sterling and Mikalenko to Parma and Estupinian. Looks good. With Sterling, of course, he's very frustrating to say the least, but he can produce these massive returns out of nowhere. But Palmer has been the guy for Chelsea this season, and those transfers look great. Can we find the starting squads in Luton, Dylan? Well, what's it called? The lineups are out very soon. So if I'm still streaming in 10 minutes' time, I will go for it. I'm not so sure if Saka's been, what you're saying. Has he been underwhelming? Yes. if we think about it though, Saka had a very good start, and up until the injury against Man City, which saw him ruled out, you know, Saka was pretty good, FPL-wise even. He was getting multiple double-digit returns. He was returning in pretty much every single game. And in the Champions League, he's got the most goal contributions alongside players like Kane and Bellingham, etc. So I don't think Saka's been shit this season, I'll be honest. I don't think he has. Has he been underwhelming? So Saka similar to who? I don't know. I've got an Arsenal friend who says he's similar in profile. Let me say that, make it very clear, to Salah. But I don't know. Saka's a bit of a unique kind of profile, because he's kind of like a creator, goal scorer, and dribbler in one. But I'd say he's kind of just more of an all-round winger. I'd have to think about that in terms of who he's similar to, but I don't think he's similar to Sterling. I think they're different profiles. Sterling is more of a pacey and, you know, goal-scoring winger. I think Saka's more of an all-rounder. I don't take any hits till late December. Yeah, I took maybe one hit up until November, but I have taken a lot recently. Hi Dylan, Rashford or Werner on radar? Well, look, I don't want to discount anybody. Richarlison was nowhere near my radar a month ago, but, you know, he's changed things with his performances. I'd say more so Rashford's on my radar, but yeah, that's more because of what he did last season. I do think this is going to be one of his campaigns where he does nothing or, you know, does really poorly throughout most of it, but you just never know. Rashford and United are so inconsistent. Is it time to ship out Archer now, Diaz and Sheffield? Yeah, with Archer, look, I'm looking to sell him to Haaland anyway, so he is a sell. But if you've got a lot of squad depth and, you know, Archer's really there for your, you know, to be a budget enabler and to give you the funds for other moves, then it's not a priority. Terrific Text says, thoughts on my team? Very good. Taylor probably won't play. Let's see in a few minutes' time if he does. If so, that looks pretty good. Trippier against Man City, not ideal, but yeah, apart from that, very, very good squad. Yeah, particularly like your forward line and your midfield, I have to say. Yeah, I am an Arsenal fan. But don't let that influence my FPL opinions. Do you think Mbappe will ever leave PSG? Something needs to change if he wishes to become the best player in the world. Well, there are reports that he's going to go to Real Madrid. They have been, I think, denied by PSG. Yeah, I think Mbappe will eventually leave. It's just a question of when. But I'm a bit sick of this saga every single year. It's the same story. Like, okay, just get it done with. Rohan puts his team as well. Very good stuff. If De Bruyne does start and gets a consistent run of games, that could be fantastic for you. But I have to say, I'm a bit concerned about that. And I also don't like Steele. Despite the fixtures for Brighton, I think Estupinian is more than enough cover for their defence. Thank you for moderating the chat, Singh. I appreciate it. Yeah, don't worry. It's just it's a mate of mine just taking the piss. Don't worry, I'll talk to him soon. Hi Dylan, do you think Osimhen will come to Chelsea? I really hope he can be our next Drogba. To be honest, I think he probably will at some point. I don't think he'll go to Arsenal, another team he's been linked with heavily. Yeah, the thing is with Chelsea, though, since Drogba, you've had a few good strikers, probably Diego Costa, Giroud, and that's about it. I might be forgetting somebody, but yeah, the number 9 curse at Chelsea is very real. Saka doesn't have Salah's pace and composure. Yeah, composure in front of goal, fair enough. You know, Salah's a killer. Saka isn't. I think that's the key word. In my opinion, Saka is a composed player because one thing people do give him credit for since he was 18 is his decision-making, you know, and it was far beyond his years at that stage, and it still is now. But I think the key word is he's a killer. Salah's a killer in front of goal. Saka isn't. He's a good goal scorer, a decent finisher, but he's not a world-class finisher or a clinical one like Salah. Can't believe I was dependent on Taylor this game week. Is he ruled out already? If so, I do apologise in advance. But yeah, I mean, he wasn't in any training sessions. You sometimes see some surprises. But yeah, let's wait and see how that pans out. I haven't seen anything. Just very quickly before we go, and I'll go for some, you know, a few more questions. Let's go for the predictions. Let's see if I can do anything pretty good with these. So, Burnley versus Luton Town. Ooh, la, la. That is a very difficult game to call. I'm gonna go for. I'm actually in two minds about this. Probably the most difficult one to predict. I'm going to go for a 2-2. Chelsea versus Fulham. I'm still backing a Chelsea win. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Chelsea. Newcastle, Man City. Difficult. Very difficult. I think I'm going to go for 2-1 Man City. Everton, Aston Villa. These games are very difficult to predict. I probably should have thought about them before going live. Everton, Aston Villa. I'm going to go for 1-1. Man United, Spurs. There's a lot of Man United players returning from injury now, and that could definitely boost their chances. I'm going to go for a Man United win. I'm going to go for 2-1. 2-1? Yeah, 2-1. 3-2 is springing to my mind. You know what? I'm going to go for 3-2 Man United. Arsenal, Crystal Palace. Famous last words. 3-1 Arsenal. Brentford, Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest. I'm going to go for a Brentford win. And I'm going to go for another 2-1. Sheffield United against West Ham. I'm going for 1-0 West Ham. Bournemouth versus Liverpool. I'm going to go for 3-1 Liverpool. I think it'll be tight for most of the game, but Liverpool will probably kill it off towards the end. And then Brighton versus Wolves. I'm going to go for probably 3-1 Brighton. 3-1 Brighton. Yeah, hopefully a clean sheet with a Stupinian there. But yeah, I'm going to go for a 3-1 there. Yeah, my predictions probably aren't great. I'll try to address them and update them in the Discord server. Thoughts on the wildcard team, says Rohan. Yeah, it looks good. I have to say, it looks very good. But like I said, De Bruyne is my concern. How many more do Chelsea want, says Venom. Yeah, I know. It's just like they spend $1 billion and they just can't get enough. Oggy says, thanks, Dylan. It's a risk with KDB currently 124. That is amazing. Went early for possibly a return in Gameweek 21, but more for versus Burnley. Joined you on the Saka captaincy. Great content, Dylan. Well, that's a great sign if number 124 in the world is doing the same. So I'm kind of reassured there. I wish you the best there, Oggy. Hopefully you can break into the top 100 by the end. That's an incredible rank. And with KDB, look, that's what FPL's about, being early with some of these purchases. So you could be onto something there. It's just, I'm not too convinced about his fitness. If that wasn't an issue, yeah, that's obviously a great transfer. Triple up on Man City before Gameweek 25. A double up for sure. I don't think you need a triple up though. Their defenders leave a lot to be desired, a lot of rotation there as well. Haaland and Foden is enough for now, in my opinion. But if you were to go for a third one, Walker looks like the best. Dylan, what's the latest movie you watched? And is there any movie you recommend to watch? Interstellar. I finally watched it. Actually, no. I watched that, and I watched A Clockwork Orange yesterday, finally, as well. So, yeah, I watched, what is it, Fargo on Christmas Day. I watched Interstellar the other day, and I saw A Clockwork Orange yesterday. Just the Parkio 6 says, last game week I should have captained Salah, not Alvarez. New Year's resolution, go with the gut. Yeah, also forgot to change goalkeeper, start Leno by mistake. Hopefully it's a blessing in disguise for you, although I'm hoping for Ariella to do well. Yeah, I went for Watkins. I backed my gut, and I just went for something different. And I do think those that didn't go for Salah were a bit unlucky with the last penalty, because it also incurred 2 bonus points extra for Salah, as well as the goal. It was a massive swing, and it shouldn't have been given, but that's the way it is. Burnley 2-0, says Nick. Fair enough. Chelsea 3-1. Wei Seng says, oh, don't worry, Wei Seng, it's okay. I'll try to put the predictions there as well. I am probably going out now. But yeah, I'll try to do it before I head off. Going to add my predictions to Discord, as not looked at the stats yet. 6-0 Burnley, Doughty 4 goals, 2 assists. Yeah, wake up, Venom. 1-0 City. Yeah, that's a good shout. 2-2, says Venom. I hope that's the case. I think Luton win, but we'll post later. Fair enough. 4-1 Villa, says Nick. 3-0 Spurs. Wow, if that's the case, then Ten Hag is under massive pressure, to say the least. Nick also says Arsenal 3-1. Brentford 1-0. Yeah, 0-0 Sheffield United West Ham. That could definitely happen. 3-1 Liverpool. 3-2 Brighton. Good predictions. I'm probably going to do that. Yeah, no worries. Just the Parky. Yeah, don't worry. He's a bit of an impatient one. Yeah. So, no goalkeeper mistake last week. Sorted for this week. Oh, fair enough. That's good then. Just leave that behind in 2023. Remember when people called Salah a one-season wonder? They did the same with Kane and many others, mate. It's part and parcel of football. And sometimes you get it right, and sometimes you don't. But thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, or found useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Let's try to get this video to over 200 likes. Be sure to drop a like on your way out, and we're going to keep on pushing towards 23k subscribers and beyond. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below for the Patreon, Championships Discord server, the FPL League, and Draft Town. Be sure to check all of the links in the description below. I'm going to quickly check the Burnley lineups. I know it's literally coming out now, so it's not the perfect time to leave it. But yeah, I don't see Taylor in the starting 11. It's Trafford, O'Shea, Goodmanson, Brownhill, Foster, Ekdal, Vitinho, Cullen, Amdouni, Al-Dakhli, and Odobert starting there for Burnley. So yeah, is Taylor even on the bench? No, he's not. So wasn't in training all week, and he's not in the team. I did say this, I don't think he's going to be in the team, but if I had him, I'd start him just in case, unless you're kind of prepared to sell him, and that's all good. Taylor, wait, one second. All right, yeah, don't worry, Tustapaki, don't worry. Taylor not playing. Well, wait, Soz. Yeah, don't worry, Tustapaki, it's all good. Yeah, Taylor not playing. That's the big news. I don't think we all care about Luton Town and Burnley lineups apart from that. So that is all covered. You can leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Also check out Discord and all on my other social media platforms and talk to me there. Wish you all the best of luck for Gameweek 21 and the rest of the season. And I'll see you next time.